Konoha, Reviving Senju, starting with Concubines. Author, Vortex. Chapter 176. His children are his weakness. Orochimaru silently looked at Senju Kusanai, who was boasting in front of him, completely dismissing the reasons he gave. How can the insane idea of using impure world reincarnation as an employee be for the safety of the employees? As for the reason why Senju Starry Night wanted to use the impure world reincarnation body, Orochimaru thought of it instantly. Needless to say, it must be because impure world reincarnation is free. That's the main thing. Damn businessman, you are indeed a devil. This time, Orochimaru's tone was full of affirmation. Senju Kusanai didn't take it seriously, just took it as a compliment to himself. It is also a very novel experience to be called a demon by Orochimaru, a research madman who likes to do human experiments. Looking at the fragmented corpse in front of him, Nagato let out a long breath. Fine. After making heaven pain with the corpse of his friend Yuhihong, he immediately made Hell Road. The damaged Pen 6 paths can be revived at any time through Hell Road's ability, Hades Wheel Resurrection. Certainly, it doesn't matter if there is no Hellway, because after all, Pain 6 Paths abilities are Inegan's abilities. The reason why Nagato wanted to make Pain 6 Paths was also to be able to play the ability of multiple Renegans at the same time. Renegan's strength is very strong, and various abilities are very useful. If only one person uses it, it is inevitable to give up some abilities. This made Nagato feel very sorry. Put the collected fragments of Tantao Pain's corpse into the mouth of the summoned Hades. After the King of Hades chewed it, an intact Tao of Heaven came out of the King of Hades' mouth. Looking at the intact Tantao Pain, Nagato couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Sorry, it's my fault. I miscalculated the difficulty of this mission. Conan may not be able to return to us in a short time. Tantao Pain nodded lightly and said, Conan's is not important for the time being. The key issue is how to solve the obstacle of Senju Starry Night. His existence has seriously interfered with our plan to collect tailed beasts. Nagato also has a headache. However, having seen the devastating power before, he knew that if he wanted to defeat Senju Kusanai, he simply couldn't do it. I don't know what to do now. I can only take one step at a time. Well, Nagato sighed deeply. Tantao Pain was silent. The other Pain naturally didn't dare to speak. The scene fell into silence for a while. At this time, Uzumaki appeared out of nowhere, and the figure of Uchiha Obito emerged from Uzumaki. Obito looked at the silent Nagato, and the slightly stagnant atmosphere in the air, and knew that Nagato's plan was not successful. This surprised him. Unexpectedly, Nagato, who has Rinnegan, can't help Senju Starry Night. He also thought that with Nagato's Rinnegan, he would definitely be able to deal with Kianxing I. Now it seems that he is whimsical. Failed? Tell me about the situation. I want to know all the news about Senju Starry Night, and I will definitely be able to use it in the future. Nagato sighed, and then said, You just have to go to the Valley of the End and take a look. I'm no match for him at all. Seeing Nagato's negative look, Uchiha Obito could not help but frown. Does this make you give up? Even if Senju Kusanai is very strong, we still have many ways to deal with him. Don't forget, he is only a human being. As long as he is human, he will have weaknesses. And his weaknesses, there are many. Nagato raised his head suddenly and said, What weakness? His child. Uchiha Obito said grimly. Nagato narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Isn't your idea a little inhumane? For the sake of our plan, what is a little sacrifice? Uchiha Obito snapped. Don't forget, what we want to create is a world without disputes. This is not something that can be done simply. Nagato was silent. Using a child to deal with Senju Starry Night, he instinctively felt uncomfortable. In particular, he thought that there might be Conan's children in it, and he felt even more disgusted. For the first time, doubts arose about Uchiha Obito's stated plan, but he didn't think too much about it. Uchiha Obito was still waiting for his answer. I'll talk about that later. Right now I just want to continue working on Pen 6 Paths. I will let Tantao cooperate with you to recruit new members of Akatsuki Organization 5.5. After Nagato finished speaking, he closed his eyes and began to rest. The meaning of thanking guests behind closed doors is very obvious. Uchiha Obito snorted coldly, and then called Tantao Pain to leave together. Since Nagato doesn't plan to trouble Senju Kusanai now, he can't go there himself. He couldn't even beat Nagato, and he certainly couldn't beat him. Uchiha Obito is confident in his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities. I believe that anyone who has never seen it will be easily recruited. But to be on the safe side, it's time. Failure to do so would easily expose his presence and ongoing plans. Chapter 177. Yuhihong's Envy. Slower. Senju Kusanai held Asaka's arm and walked with her. 9 months of pregnancy made her belly protrude very obviously. Although it is not suitable for exercising too much, you cannot lie still every day. Still need to exercise a little bit. Now, with a happy face, she was wandering in the courtyard with the support of Senju Kusanai. Being able to marry Senju Kusanai and have a child for him is really a blessing. She was even afraid that all this was just her fantasy. Every day when I open my eyes, I am afraid to go back to my magnificent room in 10 Kingdoms. But fortunately, She could feel the liveliness of the child in the womb every day. Oops! She let out a "oh7" exclamation and covered her stomach unconsciously. What's wrong? Senju Kusanai immediately asked nervously, and put his hand gently on her stomach. Asahi said with some embarrassment. The kid is kicking me. Really? He is really a lively child, and he must be healthy. The tension disappeared immediately, and a doting smile appeared on Senju Kusanai's face. Asaka was immediately engrossed in Senju's starry smile, and her eyes became dazed. By the time she came back to her senses, Senju Kusanai had helped her down to the reclining chair. It's been a while, let's take a rest, Senju Kusanai said warmly. Asaka nodded, lying on the recliner and squinting her eyes. Senju Kusanai sat on the side, holding Koxiang's hand and accompanying her. Holding her husband's hand, Koxiang soon fell into a dreamland every day. At this time, there was some noise outside. Senju Kusanai frowned and looked up, and saw Luffy rushing into the courtyard bluffing. SHH. Senju Kusanai put her index finger on her lips, and Luffy also saw Asaka who was sleeping soundly, and immediately covered her mouth and nose, not even daring to put down her raised foot. Behind Luffy, Nabu and Yuhihong walked quietly. As soon as Yuhihong came in, her eyes were attracted by Koxiang's 9-month-old belly, and a hint of envy flashed in her eyes. She also wants to give birth to a child for Senju Starry Night, adding a contribution to the expansion of the Senju clan. But unfortunately, Senju Kusanai insisted on going to her and waited for a year. So even though she couldn't wait in her heart, she still had to be patient. Seeing Kurena Yui, Senju Kusanai nodded with a smile and said softly, "Today was tough. It's not hard work, it's what I should do." Yuhihong shook her head again and again, accompanying Naru and Luffy around the village every day to do those D-level tasks without any difficulty, except for some tedious tasks. It is not hard. And she also wants to spend more time with Nu and Luffy, who will live in a family in the future. Naturally, it is good to have a good relationship. She stepped forward lightly. Her gaze involuntarily fell on Zhuxiang's stomach. "Mr. Kusanai, how long will Sister Zhuxiang give birth to a baby?" "The expected time is next month, but judging from the current situation, this month is also possible," Senju Kusanai said with a smile. "The expected date of normal delivery is next month, but if you are not careful like Conan, you may give birth prematurely. However, his child of Senju Starry Night has the blessing of Senju blood, so even if he is born prematurely, he will not have any problems with his health. Of course, it is best to have a normal delivery." So far, Senju Starry Night's child is only Conan's child, Hisoka, who was born prematurely. If you give birth prematurely, it will still make people worry, and you still have to work hard for Sister Koxiang. Yuhihong said softly, then took Nu and Luffy's hands, and led them out of the courtyard so as not to disturb Asaka who was sleeping soundly. As soon as she walked out of the courtyard, she met Yuan Shizi head-on. Yuhihong's expression immediately became tense. When she first stepped into Senju's residence, Yuan Shizi's words were like Moai's words, which she still remembers until now. Even if she now knows that Yuan Shizi was just joking with her, every time she sees Yuan Shizi, she feels a little appreciative in her heart. "Hi, Sister Shiori," she said softly. Madoka Shiori 863 nodded, noticing her nervous expression, and reached out to hold her cheek. "Don't be so nervous, we will be good sisters in the future." "Yes, Sister Shiori." Yuhihong's face turned reddish. In front of Yuan Shizi, she is like a weak little girl. Although she is just a little girl, as a Chunin, she is much stronger than Yuan Shiori who is only at the level of Genin. But every time she was at a disadvantage because of Yuan Shizi's princely aristocratic aura rushing towards her face, Yuhihong didn't dare to have the slightest thought of resistance. "Hey," I said, "relax, why are you so nervous?" Yuan Shizi sighed, her eyelids sank, revealing a look of pity for me. "Anyone who sees it, I'm afraid they will immediately thump." Evening Red is no exception, she said quickly and softly. "I just respect my sister." Yuan Shizi shook her head helplessly, restraining the expression on her face. "You are too easily deceived." Chapter 178 Senju Pharmaceutical's new drug. Have you heard about Senju Pharmaceutical's new product? You mean the one that treats inflammation? Of course not. That was last month's product. I'm talking about this month's product. What is what? Don't be fooled. Hey, this product is amazing. It's about disability recovery. What? Senju Pharmaceutical's product this time can restore severed limbs? Hey, I'm talking about rehabilitating disabilities, not including severed limbs. What? It can actually revive a person who has just died? I didn't say that. Your story is too outrageous. Who would believe it? What? Senju Pharmaceutical's product this time can actually bring the dead back to life? Hey, did you guys hear me? What? Senju Pharmaceutical. The news that Senju Pharmaceuticals sold new products quickly spread throughout the ninja world, and this product has also attracted widespread attention. The continuation of the disabled nerve means that the physical sensation of the disabled can be restored, so that the disabled can become a normal person. Of course, only including patients with connected limbs, like those with missing limbs, is useless. As for whether there will be therapeutic products for these patients in the future, I can only say that I believe in Orochimaru's research capabilities. And this news, of course, spread to the ears of the Fire Country daimyo in the first time. The Fire Country daimyo has many children. Among them was a child who had been loved by him since he was a child. But once when he was out hunting, he was accidentally thrown off by a frightened horse and fell heavily. Since then, the child of the Fire Country daimyo has become a paraplegic person, who can only rely on a wheelchair to move around every day. The Fire Country daimyo thought of many ways. But even Senju Tsunade was helpless at that time. In desperation, daimyo had no choice but to give up. Unexpectedly, hope will be rekindled today. For the sake of his child's future health, the Fire Country daimyo immediately summoned the corner boss who was in charge of foreign transactions. Boss Zhao also has a lot of friendship with the Fire Country daimyo. The Fire Country daimyo doesn't know how many products under Senju Starry Night have purchased. It is a VIP customer of Senju Starry Night. Boss Zhao, I asked you to come here this time because of your new product. Does it have the effect you advertise? Boss Zhao was a little ashamed. There have been some strange rumors about their new products lately. It is said that it can live to the death of human flesh and bones. This is too nonsense. How can a dead person be revived? Boss Zhao thought that the daimyo had listened to the rumors and wanted to revive someone. They can never do this kind of thing. Well, my lord, please don't listen to the rumors outside. Our products don't have such an exaggerated effect. Is that so? The daimyo couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. In fact, he hadn't had time to hear those rumors. After hearing the effect of the product promotion, I immediately called Kakazu, but Kakazu was not in Fire Nation at that time, so he arrived a day or two late. As a result, there was a little information gap between the two parties. The daimyo is disappointed here. Boss Zhao said with a smile. The rumors are too exaggerated. How can our product bring the dead back to life? This kind of thing, I'm afraid even the legendary Sage of Six Paths may not be able to do it. Why? Daimyo's eyes suddenly lit up and said, this is the rumor you are talking about? Is the effect of your medicine the same as what you advertised? Is there any deviation in the effect? If it is our own propaganda, it is naturally based on sufficient experimental evidence. Boss Zhao immediately said confidently. The daimyo immediately clapped his hands. Well, you can test it for me now. I want to see the effect of the medicine. Is it here? Boss Zhao looked at the people around him. But there are no suitable patients. It doesn't. With a big wave of his hand, the daimyo wanted someone to bring his disabled son over. But I heard Boss Zhao say, since this is the case, then Zhao will be offended. As he said that, Boss Zhao directly grabbed a guard, and a fist appeared in his hand. Swish it. It was scratched at the back of the guard's neck. Suddenly, the guard screamed and fell to the ground uncontrollably. My body. I can't feel my body. The guard yelled miserably and wept bitterly. Losing control of his body, the guard fell into panic. Amazing Zhao. This sudden turn of events shocked everyone present. The other guards quickly surrounded Boss Zhao, and Boss Zhao raised his hands, and the blood-stained kunai fell to the ground with a clang. Wait a minute. The daimyo raised his hand to make the guard stop. He knew that Kakazu would definitely not commit an assassination act. Kakazu must have done this in order to let this unlucky guard be tested as a medicine man. Coincidentally, the daimyo also needs a drug tester. After all, it was his son who received treatment. He just didn't think about it because of his eagerness. But since Boss Zhao is so considerate, even though he saw blood here, he can forgive him. As long as the medicine works as Boss Zhao said, it will be fine. Chapter 179. How many courses of treatment does the customer plan to order? Relative. In the arena, only the guard whose nerve had been severed lay on the ground and screamed helplessly. The other guards surrounded Boss Zhao, but because of daimyo's order, they stared at each other in a daze. Boss Zhao looked at the daimyo calmly, without the slightest expression of panic. Even if his behavior just now is simply too rebellious in the eyes of ordinary people, he didn't care at all. After all, behind him is Senju Starry Night. Even if it is the name of the land of fire, he would never dare to offend Kienki and Xinai at this time. Boss Zhao said frankly, my lord, please wait a moment. The villain will immediately show you the latest product effects of our company. Well, let's get started. What are you waiting for? Daming is even more impatient than Boss Zhao. The other guards looked at each other and retreated slowly. Boss Zhao took out an ointment and applied it to the wound of O3's guard on the ground. Because the nerve was severed, the guard didn't feel anything. But soon, he felt a numbness on his neck. Subsequently, the pain began to appear, and gradually increased sleep. At the same time, the guard once again felt his hands and feet. I'm fine. I can feel my body now. Ha ha ha. I'm fine. Great, great. The guard jumped up directly, shouting and jumping frantically. The feeling of being lost and found again made him completely forget where he was. And daimyo saw the effect so fast, his eyes lit up. It takes no more than 1 minute from the time Boss Zhao applies the ointment to the time when the medicine takes effect. This is a broken nerve injury. It took effect so quickly. It's incredible. The daimyo knew that his poor son was finally able to step on the ground with his own feet again. Quick, how much is this medicine? I bought it, daimyo said excitedly. Boss Zhao said slowly, my lord, the effect of this ointment is indeed very rare, But there is one thing I need to remind you. The guard's nerves can heal so quickly because his injury is new. It takes about 1 to 2 months to deal with years or even decades of old injuries. If you are born with nervous atrophy, you need a longer time to govern. Daming's excitement slowed down a bit, and he understood what Boss Zhao meant. It is nothing more than reminding him that the effect varies from person to person. The daimyo is mentally prepared for this. Anyway, as long as it can be treated well, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Next, the two agreed on the amount to be purchased. The Horn Boss also gave enough discounts according to Senju Kusanai's order. Both parties are happy to complete the transaction. As for the discount, the owner of Zhao has become used to it after these years of operation. If it was in the past, if you knew how much money these discounts represented, you would definitely not agree with anything. But now, Boss Zhao has, BBBF, too much money. With more money, some slight changes have taken place in the previous concept. At least I won't go all out because of the money. After explaining some precautions when using drugs, Boss Zhao left Daming Mansion. Next, there are still many places waiting for him to come to sell. But Boss Zhao just came out of the border of the country of fire and was about to go to the country of earth, but he was intercepted. A person was already prepared to block his only way. Boss Zhao didn't know this person, but Boss Zhao had heard about his special eyes from his own boss. It turned out to be the leader of the famous Xiao organization. I don't know what he wants to block my way. Boss Zhao squinted his eyes, staring at Tan Daopane who blocked his way. Tan Daopane said with an indifferent expression, "We know the organization and are determined to build a." Okay, I don't care what your Xiao organization wants to do. Boss Zhao interrupted Tan Daopane impatiently, and said with a frown, "If you have nothing to do, don't block my way. I still have a lot of business to talk about." Although it seems careless, Boss Zhao is secretly ready to pull out the scroll to summon his own boss clone at any time. After all, this is the eye of the fabled Sage of Six Paths, worth the vigilance of Horn Bosses. Originally, Tan Daopane wanted to promote his Xiao organization, and then pull the boss in. Boss Zhao's strength clearly meets Xiao's organization's recruitment requirements. Pity. Boss Zhao has already chosen a tree for a good bird to live in, so naturally he won't get on the wrecked ship of some Xiao organization. I want your new product. Tan Daopane didn't talk nonsense, and directly stated his request. When Boss Zhao heard this, he immediately said with a smile, "So it's a client. I don't know how much treatment the client intends to take." Dear, according to the estimated treatment cycle, if the nerve rupture time is within 1 year, it is recommended to purchase a course of product. If it is 1 to 3 years, it is recommended to purchase 2 courses of treatment. It is recommended to purchase 3 courses of treatment for 3 to 5 years. It is recommended to buy 5 courses of treatment for 5 to 10 years. Chapter 180. With me here, the world will become better and better. Inside Rain Shinobi Village. In a hidden place, Nagato looked excitedly at the mysterious ointment in front of him. This is the new product of Senju Pharmaceuticals that he spent a lot of money on. Whether he can stand up again and walk freely depends on whether the effect of the medicine is as miraculous as the other party said. If I can move freely, it will definitely be easier to use the power of these eyes! In the final analysis, Pain Six Paths is a substitute made by Nagato to replace himself because of his own mobility. But if he can move freely by himself, Jiading will be able to exert a stronger strength when the main body cooperates with these substitutes. And, most importantly, Nagato was finally able to get rid of his disability and use his feet to re-support his body. This is the most important. Tan Daopane took out the ointment and smeared it on Nagato's unconscious legs. It has been a year since Nagato lost feeling in his legs. The severed nerve has likely been severely shrunk. So if you want to reactivate these atrophied nerves, you need to apply ointment to the entire unconscious part. Only by turning all the nerves into the state before they were broken can the nerves recover faster after reconnection. Tan Dao carefully spread the ointment evenly, not sparing a single corner. Soon, Nagato felt a little weak. Although weak, it still made Nagato very excited. This was the first time he felt anything from his legs since he lost feeling in his legs. This is undoubtedly a very obvious signal. His leg was saved. Marvelous. Finally, I have hope to stand up again. Hot tears dripped from Nagato's eyes. He never imagined that one day he would stand up on his own again. Now, with this hope at hand, how can Nagato not get excited? At this moment, he even wanted to wipe off all the ointment at once. But Boss Zhao's reminder woke him up and stopped this crazy idea. Although this ointment can restore atrophied nerves, it can also reconnect broken nerves. However, this requires a large amount of nutrition in the patient's body. If too much ointment is used at one time, the ointment will continue to exert its medicinal effect, and at the same time it will continue to consume the nutrients in the patient's body. In this case, this ointment is not a good medicine for saving people, but a poison for killing people. The nutrients in the human body are consumed in an instant, and the entire body system will collapse in an instant. At that time, even if the nerve treatment is cured, the person will be gone. Boss Zhao's warning was still in his ears. Nagato could only hold back his own thoughts. and anxiously waited for the next day. At the same time, the hunger made him understand that his body is in urgent need of nutrition. As a result, Nagato, who hadn't eaten well in the past few years, instantly became a big eater and ate several kilograms of food. Yui is a kind child, but unfortunately he was born in Daming Mansion. There was a memory in Yuan Shizi's eyes, and a trace of pain flashed in her eyes. The person she called Yui was precisely the son that Daimyo wanted to save at all costs. And this Yui is also the younger brother of the same mother as Yuan Shizi. The Daimyo has more than a dozen children, and several people surround him. Each wives and concubines gave birth to several children for the Daimyo. On Yuan Shizi's side, there were only her and her younger brother Yui. Ask for flowers. Yui is kind and simple in nature, and likes to help others. At the same time, because he looks the most like the Daimyo, he won the favor of the Daimyo. But this also aroused the jealousy of other brothers. So, during another hunting activity, because someone moved his hands and feet, Yui went crazy with what he said, and he threw Yui, who was not prepared at all, off his horse and broke his waist. The Daimyo was furious and executed many people. But the mastermind could not be found, and the reason why Yuan Shizi wanted to participate in the dispute of inheriting the Daimyo was also to prevent those who hurt her brother from being able to sit in that position as they wished. Now, the ointment developed by Senju Kusanai can make Yui stand on the ground with his legs again. Yuan Shizi is very happy in his heart. However, her mind didn't change. She will never give up the Daimyo's position to anyone else. If you had told me earlier, I would have asked Oki to research this medicine first. Senju Kusanai stopped Madoka's shoulder. It was rare to see Yuan Shizi with a strong personality showing such a weak expression in front of him, which made Senju Kusanai feel pity. I just never thought that such a thing could be done. Yuan Shizi shook her head, and wiped the crystals from the corners of her eyes. Senju Kusanai smiled and said, "That's why you don't understand the magic of ninjutsu. You will see more incredible things in the future." Yuan Shizi also showed a smile, and a look of curiosity appeared in her eyes. "Really? That's really exciting." Senju Kusanai raised his head, looked at the bright night sky and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely make this world better and better." Chapter 181 King's Power. The Power of Poseidon. Time flies. Soon, a month passed. In May, summer is about to enter, and the weather has become milder. The warm breeze blowing on the cheeks makes people feel very comfortable. The people of Konoha village indulged in this gentleness and began to repeat their days every day. Work hard to earn money and pay off the fixed monthly loan. And the common creditor of all the Konoha people is standing in the courtyard outside the delivery room at this moment, leisurely waiting for the birth of his next child. Having already had 20 children, Senju Starry Night is already experienced in this area. Although Asaka is the first production, but with the same experienced Senju 297 Tsunade by her side, Senju Starry Night is not worried at all. Even if the delivery process is not smooth, there is no problem with maternal bleeding. The strongest medical ninja in the ninja world accepts and says that this is not a problem at all. This time, there was no one else in the courtyard with him. Nawu, who was usually there, went out to perform a mission and was not at home. The other children were either still unable to move freely, or they were playing together. Except for a few mothers who came to help, the other mothers stayed with their children to prevent accidents when they were playing among the children. After all, the children of Senju Starry Night are all talented. If you don't pay attention, it is easy to get hurt. Each of the children has a promising future, but too many of them are also a worry. There are more children, and there are more troubles. Senju Kusanai shook his head helplessly and sighed. But there was always a smile on the corner of his mouth. This kind of trouble, I am afraid that other families would like to have more. Any one of his children, as long as they appear in the front family, is the kind that is afraid of being melted in the mouth, and afraid of being broken in the palm of the hand. But he has 20, and is about to have the 21st. This kind of thing that makes other families envy and hate. As long as other families know about it, they must want to ask Senju Kusanai to be lucky with their clansmen. As long as they can keep the children in their family. Certainly, Senju Starry Night naturally wouldn't do such a thing. Even if it is lucky, the child must be surnamed Senju, and it is absolutely impossible to give it to other families. Just thinking about it, a loud baby cry suddenly came from the room. Senju Kusanai immediately regained consciousness and walked towards the delivery room with long legs. Entering the delivery room, I saw Senju Tsunade wiping the child's body, and Senju Kusanai saw the child's lower body. It's a boy. Ding! Congratulations to host for the birth of her 21st child. Generating talent. Talent 1, King's Power. Talent 2, Ancestral Giant Bloodline. Talent 3, Celestial Dragons. The power of the king. It feels very powerful just by hearing the name. Moreover, this child is Zhao's child. Like Yuan Shizi, Caoxiang is also a noble princess. From this point of view, the identity of this king is obviously more in line with Caoxiang's identity. Moreover, when this child grows up, he may be able to inherit the great name of the 10 kingdoms. Certainly. The premise is whether the child has this idea when he grows up. Skip the second one directly. This kind of giant bloodline has no sense of choice at all. With such a nimble profession as a ninja, A tall and bulky giant is just a huge target, so this is skipped directly. As for the third one, it sounds very harky too. Dragons are mythical creatures in legends, and Tianlong is even more noble when you hear it. To be able to call themselves celestial dragons, these celestial dragons must be very powerful. Maybe it fits the identity of Princess Koxiang very well. But, when Senju Kusanai's gaze falls on the third option, his invincible instinct reappears. The feeling that if he chooses, he will regret it for the rest of his life, once again strongly appeared in his mind. Senju Starry Night never dared to forget this feeling, because the trap of the Emperor engine is really impressive. Taking a deep breath, he chose the only option available. Talent, King's Power. Grade, A, Super Cage Level. Initial Stage. Talent Introduction, can extract other people's hearts in the form of void. Because each mind is unique, each void has unique abilities and shapes. To extract the void, two conditions need to be met. 1. The person to be drawn must maintain absolute trust in the holder of the King's Power. Second, the person to be drawn must have a heart of admiration for the holder of the King's Power. The extracted void can be stored in the void space and can be extracted and used at any time, but there is a storage limit. 3.6 What is the ultimate Poseidon talent? Senju Kusanai frowned wildly. Is this the power of the king? This is the power of Poseidon. He can already foresee the future of his child. In the future, there must be groups of beauties around. Not in groups. If this talent does not have women, it is a useless talent, etc. Maybe you don't necessarily need a woman either. Senju Kusanai shivered quickly, completely forgetting the picture in his mind. Looking down at his son, he couldn't help but say, as long as your appearance is 1/10 of mine, this talent will come into play. Chapter 182 Trustworthy Intuition. Not Senju Starry Night confident. But that's how it is. If it weren't for this invincible good looks, even if he had incomparable wealth, it would be impossible for so many women with unique personalities to marry him and raise children for him. This talent is entirely dependent on its own affinity. As long as there are more people around you who trust you, love you sincerely, or love yourself, you will be able to exert stronger power. The level of this talent can reach the level of A, which is enough to show that the drawn power is definitely not weak. Moreover, the extracted power called void can be held in plural, which is a great advantage. Although it is not yet clear how this thing will work, Senju Starry Night is already looking forward to it. This power 11 is different from the code imprint he just obtained before. The code imprint allows himself to empower others, and he himself will not gain any abilities. But the power of this king is to draw power from other people. Are completely opposite abilities. Introduction to other talents. Ancestor Giant Bloodline, B+, can create and control all other giants and their own people except the attacking giant. It is not only the action that is controlled, but also the body and spirit. Physical control can make the controlled person immune to all diseases, lose fertility, etc. Mind control can erase or modify the specific memory of the controlled person. Celestial dragons, D+, in a unique world, they represent the status of the most honorable group of people. In that unique world, you can enjoy the highest standard of treatment at will, but at the same time, it is also very dangerous when encountering rebels. Really, my intuition was right. This celestial dragons is really not a good thing. Senju Kusanai once again confirmed how amazing his intuition really is. Several times, he identified the traps arranged by the system in advance. Although from the point of view of explanation, this talent is indeed worthy of Princess Koxiang's identity. But after all, this is a talent that limits a certain world, and it's just an identity, without any power boundness. Naturally, it is completely meaningless in the ninja world. However, Senju Kusanai was a little surprised by the bloodline of the ancestor giant. I thought those giants were just about the enlargement of the flesh. Unexpectedly, this ancestor giant has extremely powerful control ability, although try to control their own people. But if the benevolent king possesses this power, can he make his people healthier and stronger? This point is just Senju Kusanai's personal conclusion based on the talent introduction. As for whether it can have an effect, one be careful, let alone use your own son for this kind of experiment. Moreover, the power of the king is also very good. It's just that as an A-level talent, it can't play any role at all now. I'm afraid it needs to wait until the child is 15 or 16 years old before it can play a role. Senju Starry Night is still looking forward to what effect this void will have. Of course, if he wants to see it, there is no way. As long as Kuang-san speeds up the child's time, he can grow up in a very short time. But this also means that his lifespan has been inexplicably shortened. Naturally, this is not something Senju Starry Night would do. What were you talking about? Inexplicable. Senju Tsunade returned the child to Asaka, who opened her arms and looked expectant. Zhao Xiang hugged her son with a smile. Her movements were gentle. She looked down at her son, who had stopped crying and was observing the world with curious eyes, and said, "This is my husband's son, so I will naturally inherit my husband's perfect appearance." Senju Kusanai smiled and said, "I mean, when he grows up, he will definitely need a lot of girls around him." "How about it? His name is Senju collecting fans of the world. Senju Tsunade couldn't help giving him a blank look. What do you take a girl for? Senju Tsunade smiled and didn't care. Koxiang is holding her child 610 with a mother's smile on her face. Senjuchi, when you grow up, you want to be like your father and marry many, many girls. Do you understand? Senju collection. Talent, King's Strength, A. Senju Bloodline, C. Qualification, B+, Cage level peak. Although Senjuchi, who was just born at this time, still looks crumpled and ugly, but Asahi believes that with Senju Tsunade and his external conditions, her son's appearance will definitely not be bad. In the future, maybe he will be able to marry many girls. At that time, the Senju clan will be able to continue to grow and develop. Ding, the talent of the offspring has been confirmed. Random feedback host reward. Congratulations to host, you have obtained consumable A-level talent improvement pill +1. A-level talent improvement pill. Grade, A. Introduction to consumables. Any talent below level A can be upgraded, and it will disappear after use. Chapter 183. Don't be in front of children. Senju Tsunade stared. No usage restrictions. He can also use the talent to enhance Dan. Now he can raise the code imprint, disabled, to perfection. Without the slightest hesitation, Senju Tsunade directly used it on himself. It has been determined to use the A-level talent to improve Dan. Please confirm to improve the talent. Of course it is the code imprint, residual. Senju Tsunade yelled in his heart. It has been determined to upgrade the talent to the code imprint, disabled. This talent meets the promotion standard and is being promoted ++. Successful talent improvement. Promoted from B+ level, Cage level peak, to A level, Super Cage level midterm. Code imprint. Grade, A, Super Cage level midterm. Talent introduction. Can give anyone the ability called Geass. Geass ability varies from person to person, and will be determined according to the strongest desire of the endowed person, and once selected, it cannot be changed. The Geass ability granted is automatically upgraded to the full version, and there is no possibility of going berserk. Those with the code will not be affected by any Geass effects. Note, Absolute Command is one of Geass abilities. Senju Tsunade nodded in satisfaction, and the next step is to find someone to test the power of this talent. As for whom? Of course it's my wife. After spending some time with Asaka, Senju Tsunade quietly left the room without disturbing their mother and son's rest. Then go straight to Uzumaki Kashina's room. Father. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he saw that Nu was there. Senju Tsunade looked at his daughter in surprise. Didn't you have a mission today? Nu shook his head and said, No, teacher Kakashi said it was a 2-day break, and Nu just came back. Temporary break? Could it be Kakashi who wants to be lazy? But Kakashi should not be such an irresponsible guy. That's probably what Senju Tsunade had assigned him. After all, Kakashi is also one of the high-end combat forces in the village. Although it has not yet reached the cage level, there will definitely be no problem in time. It is also good to go out and exercise more while you are young. Kakashi is also one of the ninjas he invested in. Although he is the only one left in the Hatake family, Kakashi is the only ninja he invested in who is not a commoner. Senju Tsunade doesn't care about other ninjas. He just firmly held Konoha's civilians in his hands. Certainly. Now other ninjas are forced by Senju's property, and all of them have joined him. As a result, Danzo can't even find some good seedlings for the roots. Senju Tsunade recently heard that Danzo has been reduced to other places in the Land of Fire and has started silently cultivating orphans. If he is allowed to explore the place, he must use his money ability to directly rescue all these orphans, lest they step into the fire pit of Gen. Well, where is the mother, do you know? Senju Tsunade rubbed the top of her daughter's head and asked. Mother is in the house. Nu's head was shaken by Senju Tsunade to answer. Senju Tsunade smiled, nodded and said, Then how about you play here now and I will accompany you later? Nu's eyes suddenly became bright. I want to practice with my father. Okay, Daddy promises you everything. Senju Tsunade responded with a smile. As soon as he turned his head, Uzumaki Kashina opened the sliding door and came out. Senju Yoruichi spoke, and Uzumaki Kashina heard his loud voice. It happened that she was also very curious about Koxiang's situation, so she came out directly. Husband, how is Sister Koxiang's child? Although looking at Senju Starry Night's attitude, you already know the answer. But Uzumaki Kashina still wants to hear Senju Tsunade say it himself to be at ease. Now, she is not only Nu's mother, but also the mistress of the Senju clan. She cares about all the children as her own, because these children are the key to the development and growth of the Senju clan. Senju Starry Night's branching work has been done very well. We only need to wait patiently for the children to grow up and then form their own families, so that the Senju clan can continue to become the hand of the forest. Apostrophe. Of course the child is fine, you have to be careful. Senju Tsunade quickly stepped forward to support Uzumaki Kashina. This immediately made Uzumaki Kashina dumbfounded. You are too careful, I am only 4 months old, and I am completely fine with my own activities. Although there are already ups and downs on the stomach, but it does not affect the movement. Senju Tsunade guarded carefully and said, It's always right to be careful. Uzumaki Kashina smiled wryly, shook his head and said, "Scarf. Forget it, you can do whatever you want. But husband, is there something you are looking for me this time?" Senju Kusanai said with a smile. "I just want to experiment with an ability, and I need your cooperation." Uzumaki Kashina asked curiously. "What ability?" Senju Kusanai smiled mysteriously, then put his hand on Uzumaki Kashina's cheek, and leaned his head forward under her inexplicable eyes. The lips were pressed together tightly. Uzumaki Kashina's eyes widened suddenly, and a blush floated on his cheeks. Chapter 184 The Power Named Guardian. Crazy. This is in front of Nawu. Uzumaki Kashina looked shy and flushed. She pushed Senju Kusanai away vigorously, just about to say something, but suddenly a lot of memories appeared in her mind. That memory seemed to be moved into her mind bluntly, making her a little confused for a while. Fortunately, there are not many memories, and they will be quickly digested by her. At the same time, Uzumaki Kashina also understood why Kianzi Kusanai did this. As soon as she looked up, she saw Senju Kusanai's cheek with a mysterious smile. "Although I know you are in a hurry, can't you wait until you enter the house?" This is still in front of the child. What if the child is taught badly? She slapped Senju Hoshiyoruichi down complaining. Senju Kusanai smiled, just about to speak. The daughter's crisp voice came from behind. "Nawu wants to kiss too." Senju Kusanai suddenly turned helplessly, hugged Nawu 930, and kissed her hard on the cheek. "Is that all right?" Giggle. Nawu laughed happily when he was kissed, but said greedily, "No, you have to be like your mother." Senju Kusanai had no choice but to lightly touch her daughter's lips, then put down the daughter, who laughed more happily. As soon as he turned round, he saw Uzumaki Kashina looking at him teasingly, which made Senju Kusanai feel like he had shot himself in the foot. But on second thought, it's nothing. After all, Nu was only 3.5 years old, but Nu usually behaved very maturely, making him mistakenly think that Nu was already 14 or 15 years old. "Now let's see if you dare to kiss casually," Uzumaki Kashina teased, then asked curiously, "What is this power, and can it be given to me only in this way?" "Baba." Senju Kusanai shook his head and said, "Of course not, but I like it this way, don't you?" Uzumaki Kashina gave him a blank look. Senju Kusanai smiled triumphantly, and asked impatiently, "Hurry up and use your ability, let me see what it looks like." Uzumaki Kashina said, recalling the memory that had just been implanted in his brain. "My ability is called Lifeguard, which can set up a trigger-type defensive shield on a specific target." As she said that, a red light like a bird flew out of her eyes. Then, Uzumaki Kashina said to Senju Starry Night, "Okay, you can try it." Senju Kusanai nodded. A wooden stake suddenly emerged from the ground. Wood-style silent killing technique. This is a ninjutsu that traps the target and silences the target. But just within 1 meter of Uzumaki Kashina, the stake was blocked by an invisible energy shield, and even shattered. "It's okay, but to test the strength of the shield, you still need a target that you can let go of." 11. Senju Kusanai nodded. Although the upper limit of the shield's strength is not clear, the reaction speed must be acceptable. Moreover, this Geass power is also very suitable for Uzumaki Jisen's ideas. Protect the children. So this ability was born. Uzumaki Kashina nodded. Nawu watched the behavior of the two curiously. "Mother, what is that thing flying out of your eyes?" Uzumaki Kashina thought about it, then said with a smirk, "Well, that's the proof of the bond with my father." "Proof of the bond?" "Nu also wants it." Nu's eyes widened suddenly. Senju Kusanai smiled wryly and shook his head. Okay, I'll give it right away. Nawu, wait a moment, be good." Then he moved to his wife's ear and complained softly, "How can you play tricks? I originally planned to wait for them to grow up and give them this power. And if this power is not controlled properly, it will cause a catastrophe." Uzumaki Kashina stuck out her tongue cutely and said with a smile, "This is your responsibility as a father. If your child gets into trouble, it must be because you, as a father, have not set an example." "Okay, you and Nu have fun, I'll go and tell the other sisters about it. Anyway, won't you give them this power in a while?" With that said, Uzumaki Kashina left the courtyard with a satisfied smile. The space was left to the father and daughter, and she brought this good news to other sisters. Uzumaki Kashina knew very well that Senju Kusanai couldn't wait to find her to test this ability, not for her sake, but for those sisters who lacked their own strength. Let them also have a certain ability to protect themselves. This means that all sisters occupy a certain place in Senju Kusanai's heart. Of course, it's impossible for every bowl of water to be level. But Uzumaki Kashina is content. After all, she is always the one who is favored. In the courtyard, Gnu looked up curiously and asked, "Father, do you still want to kiss?" Senju Kusanai squatted down and said with his forehead against his daughter's, "No, that's fine." Saying this, he closed his eyes. Afterwards, Nu felt something extra in his mind. Chapter 185 Geass Hidden Protection. Nu could feel something more in his mind. But if you feel carefully, it seems that there is nothing. "Father, why didn't I fly redbirds out of my eyes like my mother did?" Seeing this, Senju Kusanai understood the situation. So he rubbed Nu's head with a smile, and said with a smile, "The little bird is still sleeping in Nawu's head. The little bird can only grow up after Nawu grows up. It's nothing more than Nawu's age is too young." Geass's ability automatically fell into a deep sleep. This may be a safeguard against children who are too young to understand Geass abilities, or be unable to control Geass abilities. I'm afraid Geass won't wake up until the child grows up. Now, Starry Night doesn't need to worry about Geass' ability to go berserk. Then why did mother's little bird wake up? Nu's little face was full of confusion. Senju Kusanai continued. Because the mother is an adult and Nu is still a child. When Nu grows up, the little bird can grow up with her. Do you understand? So the little bird will grow up with Nawu. Nawu nodded suddenly, and then a golden light appeared on his body. Soon, Nawu completed the transformation, with a smile of anticipation on his face. Senju Kusanai was taken aback. He didn't expect that Nawu would think of such a way of forcing him to grow up. But things are obviously not that simple. The Geass ability didn't come along with Nu's body getting bigger. Nawu quickly released the transformation state in frustration. She wouldn't last long anyway. It took Senju Kusanai a lot of effort and playing with his daughter for a long time before she forgot about Geass' ability. Subsequently, Senju Starry Night has reached a contract with all wives and concubines, giving them all the ability to Geass. Everyone's abilities are different, according to their own personalities. Some have the ability to protect, some have the ability to attack, and some have the ability to assist. But no matter what, at least he has the ability to fight back against ordinary Jonin-level ninjas. Of course, what I'm talking about here is the wives and concubines of Senju Kusanai who are only genin, or just ordinary people. For masters like Uzumaki Kushina, or Senjutsu Nade, Geass' ability is more to provide some kind of auxiliary function. For example, Uzumaki Kushina's ability is Guardian, and Senjutsu Nade's ability is to delay the passage of life. In other words, the patient basically couldn't die in front of her. She deserves to be called the #1 medical ninja in the ninja world. The women who had acquired novel powers tried each other's abilities one after another, especially those ordinary people, who were so excited that they wept with joy. In this world, they are the most aware of how miserable people without power are. The 5 Nakano sisters and Uesugisa are all princesses who have lost their country. They used to be noble, but after a brutal war, their status did not give them any comfort, but instead became a bargaining chip to increase their status. As for them, they are mostly used as items for trading. If the third Raikage hadn't sent them to Senju Starry Night, I'm afraid the future waiting for them would be extremely dark. Although, now they can live a stable life under the shelter of Senju Starry Night, their previous experience made them yearn for power more than anyone else. And the Geass abilities of the 5 sisters, although they are not the same, are all offensive abilities. Ask for flowers. At this moment, regardless of their mental exhaustion, they kept experimenting with the limits of their abilities. Uzumaki Kushina and Senjutsu Nade worried about their mental state, so they stood by. Yuan Shizi led Senju Kusanai to a secluded place. I didn't expect that you would give me such a surprise. Yuan Shizi is the princess of a great country after all. I have seen many big scenes, not to mention the miracle of giving birth overnight. Therefore, getting the Geass ability made her feel very excited, but on the surface it was not obvious. Senju Kusanai reached out and pressed her shoulder, gently moving towards her bosom. I will bring you more surprises. Well, I believe you. Yuan Shizi rarely showed a weak expression. This is an appearance that is difficult to reveal in front of her sister. The two walked quietly, and the atmosphere fell into a state of tranquility. Yuan Shizi closed her eyes, enjoying the rare time between them. After a long time, Yuan Shizi opened his eyes and said, "In a few years, when I'm ready, the child will be in your hands." Your tone seems to be pleading with you. There is no need to have such a great pressure. Senju Kusanai smiled and said, "With my backing, even your father needs to consider our identities." The development of Senju's industry has become a behemoth that cannot be ignored. In terms of assets and influence, it is completely reasonable to say that Senju is the 6th largest country in the ninja world. So, do it boldly, and I will be the most solid backing behind you. Yuan Shizi showed a reassuring smile, and lay in Senju Kusanai's arms. Chapter 186 Messy Senju Residence. As long as there are people living, there must be industries under Senju. Whether it's dry-hand real estate that cares about everyone's living environment, or dry-hand takeaway that takes care of everyone's diet, etc., it has become an inseparable part of people's lives in the ninja world. When people have gotten used to it, it is impossible for them to give up these things. Maybe a small number of people can do it, but most people can't. When this influence is converted into a value such as money, it is equal to an inestimable wealth. Now, Senju Kusanai no longer cares about how much money is in Senju Silver's 400 line, because that has lost its meaning. On his side, money is just a bunch of meaningless numbers. In the entire ninja world, there is no one richer than him. To say that he is as rich as an enemy is to underestimate him. He can be as rich as the 5 major countries. Such is the contrast to the riches that Senju Starry Night possesses. As long as someone sells it, he can definitely buy one of the 5 great nations right now. To be honest, the Kingdom of the Winds is now on the verge of betrayal. Because of the greening problem, the big customers of the Land of the Winds owe a lot of loans to Senju Bank. If the debt cannot be paid off within 10 years, the daimyo of the country of wind will really betray the country. Certainly, the nobles of other wind kingdoms may be happy to see the results. After all, the value of Senju Starry Night is much greater than that of a daimyo from the land of winds. Not only rich, but also powerful. When this kind of person is their boss, of course they welcome it with both hands and feet. If it wasn't for not daring to hire someone to assassinate the daimyo of the land of wind, the body of daimyo of the land of wind would have been completely cold. Even so, the daimyo of the land of winds, who had sensed some signs of it, went directly to live in Tsunagaku to seek the protection of the Sand Shinobi ninja, so as not to be sacrificed by the group of nobles who are blind to money. Children are very cute, especially when they are young. Just looking at them is full of protective thoughts. But if there are more children, things will become troublesome. Especially when these kids have unique talents, things are more troublesome. Robin, don't play tricks on other people. They will be scared. Be careful, Daz's body is very sharp. Remember to wear iron gloves. Pay attention to the light of Fox. Don't get caught. Who's going to coax Monet? It's not an option if it's snowing all the time. Where is the smoke? Are you sure it's not on fire? Mulia, don't touch other people's shadows. Senju Starry Night is literally falling apart. Especially after the talents of these children awakened one by one with age, it made him feel even more tired. Robin likes to play pranks, conjuring his limbs on other people to scare others. Daz was still unable to control his body well, so that those who touched him were accidentally injured, causing others to wear wire gloves if they wanted to touch him. This made Daz very sad. Fox also couldn't control his ability well, and slow light burst out from his fingertips from time to time. Senju Kusanai tried the ability to slow down the light curiously. Then he discovered that the light was really awesome. Even if it is him, after being irradiated, his body will fall into a state of almost stagnation. It will not be until 30 seconds later that the body regains its ability to move, and the 10 seconds of the frozen master will be over in an instant. This ability, if Uchiha Madara is irradiated, I am afraid that he will be powerless to resist, right? However, the only downside to this ability is that the speed of light is too slow. For ninjas who are generally very fast, it is too easy to dodge. Monet also couldn't control his abilities well, and it snowed when he was in a bad mood. Obviously, now is the time to gradually become warmer. The result is whether it will snow at the Senju station. This has become an after-dinner conversation among Konoha village residents. Smoker, like Monet, can't control his own abilities, and often makes the courtyard smoky, and staying in it for a long time is very unfriendly to the lungs. And the smoke was so big that it was impossible to tell whether it was a fire or the smoker's ability was out of control. Mariah is a naughty ghost. She wants to touch other people's shadows when she sees them. Every time was blocked by Senju Starry Night. After all, Senju Kusanai knew how terrible the consequences would be for someone whose shadow was taken away by Molly 3.0. They cannot be exposed to the sun for a lifetime, and as long as they are exposed, they will turn into ashes and disappear like vampires. Senju Kusanai does not want to lose his family because of an accident. Therefore, he has been separating a clone to keep an eye on Moria's actions. Once she is dishonest, immediately come out and stop her. Except for these 6 guys, the other kids didn't stop either. The twins Sesshomaru and Inuyasha are naturally at odds and always like to fight each other. Kairomi's clones will always appear everywhere in Senju's residence, making it impossible to tell which one is the right one. Chapter 187. If you don't go, you will be wanted, right? And the most troublesome one is undoubtedly the children's big brother, Senju Kusanai's first son, Luffy. Luffy's personality is extremely cheerful, never resting for a moment. Senju Kusanai thought that throwing Luffy outside and letting Kakashi take him to do tasks would calm the family down a bit, but totally useless. Luffy seems to have endless vitality, and when he gets home, he brings a large group of younger brothers and sisters to play wildly. Every time it makes people worry that something will happen. Fortunately, no tragedy has occurred so far. Of course, this is also related to Senju Kusanai and others watching closely all the time. Once they intend to carry out some dangerous activities, more than 4 people will come out to stop them immediately. Every time, Tanzixingyi couldn't help sighing. It's so right to have these 11 little ones at home. Just this group of troublemakers, if they are released, Konoha village may not be enough for them. It's so noisy. A group of children were chattering, as if the sound of magic filled their ears. It was simply unbearable. But I dare not stay too far away from them, for fear that something will happen and I will regret it later. Oh, when will these little guys be able to grow up? Even Yuan Shizi, who is as calm as she is showing a headache at this moment. She couldn't help but get a headache. Just now Leah led a group of girls against the boys led by Luffy. The eldest sister, Nawu, sits next to the supervisor to judge who wins the 2 teams. If it is an ordinary child, at most it is just playing around with each other. But these kids are different. Every child is unique. Although, Yuan Shizi is very satisfied with Leah's temperament like a king. But after watching her take the lead in charging, and even summoned the powerful spear, Yuan Shichan's small voice jumped directly into her throat. Fortunately, Luffy is not a fuel-efficient lamp, and easily escaped Leah's slightly immature attack, so there was no tragedy. After a chaotic battle, no matter whether it was a boy or a girl, All of them had bruised noses and swollen faces, and looked quite embarrassed. But on the second day, one by one became alive and well again. After all, they all have Senju blood, and their recovery ability is not at the same level as that of ordinary people. The best of them, like Luffy, recovered after dinner. After all, it is only one step away from Sage Body. Take it easy. Anyway, it's impossible in a short time. Senju Tsunade sighed, and then looked enviously at the quiet Nu. It would be great if these little ghosts were as well behaved and sensible as Nawu. At least we don't have to worry about it. The others nodded in agreement. Nawu's cheeks flushed instantly. Shy. In fact, Nu was also very naughty at the very beginning. But as the number of younger brothers and sisters increased, Nu suddenly felt the responsibility of being a big sister, so she learned from her mother and tried to become calm. In fact, Nu also wanted to play with his younger siblings. But after a long time of calmness, she no longer had this idea. Senju Kusanai thought for a while and said with a smile, "Well, since they have so much energy, let's start teaching them." Nawu and Luffy started practicing when they were less than 1 year old. And by practicing, they can also improve their control over their own abilities. At least it will not avoid situations like accidental injury. As soon as the words came out, some people agreed with others. Nawu and Luffy are very talented, and so is Leah. They have shown higher talents than other children since they were young. But although other children have special abilities, they are still mentally similar to ordinary children. Is it really good to train so quickly? Uzumaki Kushina was worried about the child's training problems and expressed his opposition. Instead, Senju Tsunade waved his hand and said, "No problem, I will arrange suitable people to come, otherwise teach them. Absolutely nothing will go wrong. And even if something goes wrong, I'm still there, and I will never let them do anything. They are the future of the Senju clan." After some discussion, the matter was settled in this way. As for the manpower arrangement, Senju Tsunade took care of it all at once. In fact, she had already thought of a suitable candidate. A certain man who obediently comes over as soon as he speaks. "Huh? Let me go over and train your children?" Jiraiya's face was full of reluctance. Even if it was Senju Tsunade who said this, he didn't want to agree. After all, Senju Tsunade is married to someone else, and his surname is not Kao. And it is important to teach children where to draw materials. You know, there are thousands of readers in the ninja world waiting for his latest work to come out. If this is to be taught to children, wouldn't the time for the release of new works have to be pushed back? Once those excited readers know about it, why not send him the blade? Anyway, this matter, Jiraiya is 10,000 reluctant. However, when Senju Tsunade approached Jiraiya, he naturally wouldn't just rely on his own request to make Jiraiya agree. "If you don't agree, then I will issue a wanted warrant." Chapter 188. As long as I think, I can perceive the situation of every house. Wanted warrant? Jiraiya was taken aback. As for what? Don't you just let me take care of the kids? Play so big? Senju Tsunade said casually. That's right, the order. However, the above content will be a little different from ordinary arrest warrants. Jiraiya suddenly felt very bad. With a thud, he swallowed and asked in a trembling voice. What's the difference? Senju Tsunade said with a faint smile on his face. Anyone who finds that a person named Jiraiya dares to approach bathhouses, hot springs, nightclubs, clubs, etc., as long as they provide eyewitness testimony and are confirmed to be true information, they will be rewarded with 1 million kills. What? Jiraiya was dumbfounded. Isn't this the end of his way of drawing materials? Whenever he felt lonely in the dead of night, it was these places that comforted his lonely soul. Only then did he create masterpieces that everyone loves and pursues. As a result, Senju Tsunade actually wants to eradicate the source of his happiness from the root. No, never give in. And such a large amount of money can be obtained just by providing information, so wouldn't it be possible for me to go whoring for nothing in the future? Thinking of this in my heart, I immediately knew that this matter was not so easy to complete. Jiraiya felt relieved, but still looked very anxious on the surface. Can't let Senju Tsunade see that he has thought of a countermeasure. HMPH. It's impossible for you to put an end to my determination to collect materials! Just go ahead and do the arrest warrant. I will never give in. Senju Tsunade's face turned black, and he didn't mention that Jiraiya dared to resist. I'm not afraid that such a wanted order will be passed on in the ninja world. There is no place to put his face. At this time, Senju Kusanai walked in through the door with a smile. I thought you had found such a good way. Is that the end? This method is too whimsical. When Jiraiya saw it, his face suddenly became tense. He knew that Senju Kusanai had probably already understood the huge loophole in this matter. Really? I heard Senju Kusanai softly asking Senju Tsunade. If you only provide witness information, if Jiraiya directly separates out tens of thousands of avatars, how do you deal with it? Although you know that avatars cannot be counted, how can ordinary people tell which is the real body and which is the avatar? It's over. The scam money plan is gone before it even starts. Jiraiya wailed in her heart, but looked at Senju Kusanai solemnly. The ominous premonition in his heart became stronger. Senju Tsunade is also biting his finger. I was careless and didn't think carefully about it. Then what do you say? She looked up at Senju Starry Night. Since Senju Kusanai jumped out at this time, there must be a more sure way. Just in time, She also listened to it. For reference, Senju Kusanai looked at Jiraiya and smiled slightly. Jiraiya was terrified of being laughed at. "Do you also want to limit my soul that pursues freedom?" Jiraiya couldn't help but say something, but her heart was straight. Senju Kusanai said with a smile. "Although I don't want to, Tsunade strongly recommends it, and I can only resort to some extreme measures." "Jiraiya, you also know about the Senju property?" Jiraiya felt wonderful. "Of course I know. Who in Ninja World doesn't know about Senju real estate? Basically everyone lives in a house made by Senju Starry Night. Not only is it strong and durable, but it is also green and pollution-free. The safety of the house is carefully handled by Senju Starry Night, and there is no possibility of poisoning. The main thing is that being in the Konoha estate helps to condense the chakra, which is why it is most sought after by people. In this case, how is it possible that people don't know about Senju properties? I'm afraid it will be difficult for the entire ninja world to find someone who doesn't know about Senju's property." The smile on Senju Kusanai's face became even brighter. Then you should know that every house is made by me relying on wood style, right? What do you want to say?" The ominous premonition in Jiraiya's heart became stronger and stronger, and his heartbeat also jumped up rapidly, making his mouth dry and tongue dry. The smile on Senju Kusanai's face completely brightened. "It means that as long as I want, I can perceive the situation of all houses. And this matter is not too much trouble. It is nothing more than a matter of distributing a few more wood clones, to get money. Arranging wood clone everywhere in the ninja world, I can grasp all the information I want to grasp." "So, do you think you can still collect materials freely?" "Come here." Cold sweat, cascading from Jiraiya's forehead. Unexpectedly, Senju Starry Night has carried out such a degree of optimization on the plan proposed by Senju Tsunade. This completely put an end to all his retreats. At this moment, he felt the darkness descending. All his hopes were shattered along with this darkness. "No!" Jiraiya knelt down and wailed, with deep pain on her face. And Senju Kusanai just exchanged glances with Senju Tsunade, showing a smug smile. Chapter 189. Just do everything according to my father's ideas. Land of the Winds, Tsunagakure. In the Wind Shadow Building. "Traitors, all are traitors." There was a crackling sound, and the things in the sun pile were smashed to the ground and turned into pieces. Feng Yingluo Shan stood aside, watching his nose, and heart, allowing the furious person to vent his anger. And there is only one person who can do this in front of the majestic Kazekage in the entire Kingdom of Wind. That is the name of the Kingdom of Wind. But at this moment, this daimyo looked quite embarrassed, and he didn't look like a daimyo from the 5 great nations at all. Just because, recently, his life has been a little bit bad. In order to make all the land of Winds afforested, houses and daiming mansion owed a debt of 100 million points. If the debt cannot be repaid in time, the daimyo will have to mortgage the Land of Winds to Senju Bank. But this matter does not mean that the daimyo himself is not willing to part with it, and it is impossible for other nobles to let him do this. Then, this group of nobles has a different heart. They want to overthrow the current incompetent 717 daimyo, and then elect a new daimyo who is capable enough. In just a few months, there were more than a dozen assassinations against daimyo. Although the daimyo survived by luck, many of his family members lost their lives as a result. In desperation, he could only move to Tsunagakure with the rest of his family. Under the shelter of Fenying Liuosho, he had a sense of security. All the assassins who were assassinated were blocked. But after a long time, the fact that being a daimyo can only lead such a miserable life made this daimyo unbearable. He wanted Liuosha to find a way to solve his current predicament. But what can Rosa do? He is devastated every day, and almost all the manpower in his hand is sent out to protect the rice by the sea, and there is a serious shortage of manpower. After a long time, the fame is about to collapse. Moreover, because the daimyo had neglected state affairs for a long time, now those nobles have basically taken over the affairs of the Kingdom of Wind. His name as the Kingdom of the Wind is already in name only. The daimyo of the Country of the Wind is getting more and more desperate, and is close to the edge of madness. "My lord, why not?" Seeing that the daimyo was going crazy, a jonin couldn't bear to come forward to offer an opinion. The daimyo turned his head suddenly, looking at this jonin like a mad bull with red eyes. "Huh? What are you trying to say?" Jonin swallowed. Obviously the daimyo's strength was much weaker than him. But at this moment, the daimyo's gaze seemed to choose someone to devour, so he couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. In addition, all eyes in the room were on him, which made him extremely nervous. Then, why don't you marry the Senju patriarch? It's like the daimyo of the Land of Earth. Daiming was taken aback for a moment, and then his eyes gradually lit up. "You're right. The daimyo of the Land of Land married his daughter to Ganzu Kusanai. The daimyo of the Land of Wind knew about it. Moreover, the Land of Land daimyo also received a series of preferential treatment. Since the Land of Land daimyo can do it, there is no reason why he can't do it here. Maybe he can use this to turn around and regain power. Just do it when you think of Bbook." The daimyo of the Country of Wind shouted immediately. "Quick, Sayaka! Where is Sayaka? Bring her here." Sayaka is his 18-year-old daughter. Soon, the girl with gloomy eyes was invited over. After all, she is a daimyo's woman and a princess, and the ninjas who are subordinates must not dare to neglect her. My lord father. Seeing the daimyo, Yuhihong saluted. With a veil, you can't see her face, only her dull eyes. She is not a disabled person, but her recent experience made her feel hopeless. Seeing her younger siblings die tragically in front of her, the pain made her have nightmares every night. Every time, she could clearly see the death of her younger brothers and sisters in her dreams, which made her gradually become in a trance. There is a way, Sayaka. We finally have a way. Daimyo rushed over, crawling and rolling, grabbing Shaz's shoulder. He was pushing so hard that his nails almost sank into the flesh. But Sayaka didn't seem to feel the pain, just like a puppet, letting his father shake his body. Sayaka, we can go back to our previous life, relying on you. Sayaka looked up, looked at his crazy father, and nodded indifferently. Everything should be done according to my father's ideas. She didn't ask what to do because she didn't care anymore. The daimyo nodded crazily, with a smile on his face like he was alive after a catastrophe. Great. I am so happy to have you as a daughter. You set off immediately and go to Konoha, because you are married to Kianzi Kusanai. Sayaka was stunned for a moment, and the faint brilliance returned to her eyes. She didn't expect that her father would marry her off at this time, and it was also the hottest Thousand Suns starry night in the whole ninja world. Sayaka once also thought about marrying Senju Kusanai. After all, Senju Kusanai is the dream lover of all women in the entire ninja world. But she didn't have the courage of Kokusiang, and she didn't dare to mention this matter to her father. Unexpectedly, things turned around. She is getting married now. Chapter 190. Hurry up, be careful of assassins. Why, you don't want to? Hearing Sayaka's suspicious voice, the daimyo of the country of wind glared at him. I have raised you for so many years just to make you dedicate to me at this time. No, my lord father, I'm just a little surprised. Sayaka was taken aback by his furious father. His face turned pale, and he lowered his head and said. The daimyo nodded in satisfaction, and then looked towards the corner of the room. Boss Kakazu, what do you think of this matter? He rubbed his hands obsequiously, not like a noble name at all, but more like a small businessman in the market. The corner boss watched everything. He just came to sell products as usual, but he didn't expect to see such a fuss. But he doesn't care about these, even if the daimyo dies here. He doesn't care. After all, the one who owes money is the daimyo of the wind country, but it doesn't mean that he is only limited to the person in front of him. As long as someone becomes a famous name in the country of wind, they will be in debt. If they don't return it when the time comes, they will accept the kingdom of wind as agreed, no matter who the name of the kingdom of wind is. As for the idea of the daimyo of the country of wind, Boss Tong can only say that he is thinking too much. The landscaping of the land of winds is a huge wealth, and it is impossible to erase it because of a woman. Even if this Sayaka is really married to Senju Kusanai, this matter is impossible. But it's okay to delay some time. Now, hearing this daimyo flattering him, Boss Zhao said with a smile on his face. I can't make the decision on this matter, it can only be decided by the boss himself. How about I send this Princess Sayaka to Konoha, and let the boss decide? If it weren't for worrying about touching Fenning Liuosho's sensitive nerves, Boss Zhao can now take out a branch and turn it into a wood clone with dry hands and starry night, and come directly to an on-site appraisal. But unfortunately, I can only think about it. But it's just sending a princess to Konoha, and it's not the first time the boss has done it. Familiar with the road? That's Boss Kakazu. The daimyo bowed deeply, as if entrusting his future to Boss Zhao. In fact, this matter is also related to his future. As long as he can get online with Senju Kusanai, his daimyo's position can be kept, and those nobles will definitely be wary of this, and dare not take the risk of offending Senju Kusanai to kill the daimyo. But if he didn't get on the line, maybe this last safe haven would not be able to protect his life. In short, the rope of fate of the daimyo has been completely handed over to others. If Senju Starry Night holds it, he can still float in the sky. But if Senju Kusanai lets go, then his fate will come to an end. At this time, Boss Zhao turned his attention to Sayaka. The veil covered him so that he couldn't see Sayaka's face. However, it can be seen from Sayaka's bright eyes that she has regained her spirit, that she should look good. Moreover, the figures of desert women are generally excellent, and Sayaka is one of the best. Although the chest is not as good as Senjutsunade, it is also extremely plump. Boss Zhao stepped forward and said to this woman who might become one of the mistresses in the future, please get ready as soon as possible. We will set off right away. Oh yes. You must prepare quickly. Daimyo seemed to wake up suddenly, and quickly arranged for someone to help pack the luggage. There are also two maids who went to serve together. Task for flowers. Boss Zhao saw that there was no business to do here, so he had no idea of staying. Your Excellency Fenning, I will take my leave now. If you have any needs, please send someone to contact the local staff. They will pass the news to me as soon as possible. Fenning Liuosho nodded. He now wished that Boss Zhao would leave as soon as possible. Now Sunagakure's life is very tight, and a lot of people are sent out to protect the seawater rice. There is simply no extra money to buy those high-end luxury goods recommended by the corner boss. Go slowly, don't send. Liu Osha said lightly. It can be said to be the complete opposite of the daimyo's flattering attitude. Fortunately, The daimyo brought Sayaka's luggage, otherwise, what would he think when he heard this? After waiting for a while, Sayaka reappeared, still wearing a veil, but changed clothes to facilitate travel. The two maids behind them carried a small amount of luggage, which contained some of Sayaka's clothes and jewelry. Since we are ready, let's go first. Sayaka nodded, looked back at the reluctant mother and the father with a bright smile on his face, and turned his head. His eyes became firm. She will make those murderers pay. Leaving Tsunagakure, the horn boss couldn't help but quicken his pace. Hurry up, or the assassin will catch up. Assassin? Sayaka's face suddenly turned pale, and the two maids were also frightened. Boss Zhao said without looking back. Do you think those nobles will sit back and watch you contact my boss? Rights, once contaminated, can't get rid of the mountain. Chapter 191. It's just a bunch of jumping clowns. Boss Zhao was born in troubled times, and he had already lived in this world before the ninja village era came. He has seen too many fights over lust. Regarding the greedy fishing nets in people's hearts, Boss Zhao can be said to have a very good say. And Sayaka has experienced too many things recently. Hearing what the horn boss said, Sayaka's original excitement about marrying Senju Kusanai suddenly turned into panic. Sayaka knew very well that if she could really marry Senju Kusanai, even if the arrears could not be postponed, those nobles would not dare to have any thoughts about them. Moreover, they will be very respectful and will invite them back to the Daming Mansion again, not daring to make any 450 moves. Because, when Sayaka marries Senju Kusanai, the identity of their family will change. No longer the dispensable daimyo family of the Land of Winds, but the patriarch of Senju, the concubine and in-laws of Senju Starry Night. They dared to offend the daimyo of the country of wind because they could afford the consequences, but they absolutely dare not offend Senju Kusanai. Isn't that the old birthday star hanged himself? Isn't it too long? At the same time, Sayaka is also very clear that these nobles definitely don't want to give up the right to control the country they just got. So they will definitely eradicate Sayaka on the way to Konoha to avoid future troubles. Now Sayaka is facing a road full of thorns. As long as she walks on this road, she can reach the sky in one step. Moreover, if Sayaka wants to take revenge on those nobles, he can only take this road that cannot be retreated. This is her only chance. Seeing Boss Zhao's accelerating back, Sayaka trotted to keep up. The two maids didn't dare to be negligent. Even though they were carrying the luggage, they didn't dare to complain. The afforestation of the Land of Winds is going very smoothly. After this period of time, 1/5 of the land has been covered by forests. However, it will take a long time to rely on these forests to change the land quality of the Kingdom of Wind. The overall greening is from the outside to the inside, because the country of the wind borders other countries on the periphery, and its soil quality is very normal, and the speed of changing the land will also accelerate with the greening of the city. Therefore, Tsunagakure, located in the hinterland of the Land of Winds, currently has no greenery. Boss Zhao led the team, and the four of them walked in the hot desert. Soon Sayaka and the two maids, who were ordinary people, were sweating profusely. But none of the three dared to complain, for fear of offending Boss Zhao. Now their lives are almost in the hands of Boss Zhao. Sudden, the corner boss stopped. Sayaka stopped, her heart suddenly raised in her throat. The boss Mingming Jiao didn't look tired at all, but stopped suddenly. In her view, there was only one possibility. Could it be an assassin? She asked cautiously. Seeing Boss Zhao's slight nod of confirmation, immediately, I felt extremely nervous. I didn't expect the speed to be quite fast, as expected of a guy who is good at moving in the desert. Boss Zhao didn't panic at all. He looked at the desert around him, but there was no movement. But he could feel that the enemy had surrounded them. The desert, which seems to be clear at a glance, is actually the easiest to hide. Because, as long as you hide in the sand, you will be easily ignored. Just like a sandworm, its whole body mostly hides in the sand, leaving only a big mouth outside. Once prey passes by, it will swallow the prey at lightning speed. It is enough to show that all kinds of dangers hidden in the desert. A dozen or so masked ninjas popped out of the surrounding sand. They jumped into the air and made all kinds of attacks before they landed. Wind-style vacuum wave, wind-style middle-wind blade, wind-style middle-great breakthrough, wind-style middle-harm. In addition to wind-style, there are various puppets. The mechanism weapons of these puppets shone coldly under the sunlight, extremely sharp, and needless to say, the weapons of these puppets must be highly poisonous. This is also standard for sand shinobi puppeteers. Poison and puppets. But, are these things useful for corner bosses? Totally useless. The moment these guys jumped out, Boss Zhao had already launched his own attack. His body squirmed out of 4 masks, and then launched 4 kinds of ninjutsu attacks together. Fight against the ninjutsu of more than a dozen ninjas with your own strength, and win with overwhelming force. These ambush ninjas jumped out to attack, but when they fell to the ground, they had already turned into cold corpses. Now that he knows the opponent's 5.3 ambush, how can the corner boss let the enemy go first? He took the masked monster back into his body lightly, and then said lightly, "Go on." Sayaka covered her mouth. Although her eyes were full of horror, she tried her best not to make a sound. The assassination was expected, but she never expected that Boss Zhao, who looked like a dog in a suit, would show such a terrifying attitude. That is simply not something a normal human being can do. Sayaka found that she had no knowledge of the upper limit of ninjas at all. Chapter 192. What should I do if the child can't be found after running around the street? Boss Zhao is taking Sayaka to Konoha, preparing to surprise his boss. At this time, Senju Kusanai was completely unaware of this. At this moment, he is looking for his lost daughter all over the street with a headache. Senju Crazy 3. Here's the thing. This morning, Gnu and Luffy went to perform the mission of the ninja team as usual. But today Kuang-san doesn't know why, but just wants to go with him. It's definitely impossible for her to follow. But it doesn't matter, the kitten has its own way. She first ran outside the fence of Senju's garrison, then summoned several past selves, and threw her directly over the fence. It also happened that I started to practice recently, and I have chakra in my body, so that Xiaoqiangsan 12 can use chakra to increase his strength. Otherwise, Xiaoqiangsan might not be able to cross the 2-meter-high wall. After being thrown over, Xiaoqiang 30 landed gracefully, and immediately became dazzled when he raised his head. She hasn't left Senju's residence much since she was born, let alone ran out by herself. Seeing the wider world now, Kitty 3 is going crazy with joy, like a puppy having fun, jumping around in Konoha's big and small streets, completely forgetting that she came out to play with her brothers and sisters. People were amazed that such a lively little girl suddenly appeared on the street. Before they could take a closer look, the little girl ran away and disappeared. But then, I saw another little girl who was exactly the same running past. This immediately made people think that they were delusional. The result is one after another. Only then did they realize that they were not fooled, but really had so many children. Clone technique. This was the first thought of the villagers. After all, the level of shadow clone is slightly higher, and ordinary people don't know about this ninjutsu, and they can't tell the difference between clone technique and shadow clone with a naked eye. But in the eyes of those ninjas, the appearance of a group of little Kuangsan surprised them too much. They can tell at a glance that the 3 little madmen are all entities, and the shadow clone technique needs to consume a lot of chakra. An ordinary genin can only produce at most 2 shadow clones with entities. In the end, they saw a large group of them. What's this? This is genius. Although I don't know where this child came from, there is no doubt that it must be related to the Hyuga clan, because they clearly saw that one of Xiaoqiangsan's eyes is the supercilious eye of the Hyuga clan. With such an obvious feature, they will definitely not be mistaken. Of course, the people of the Hyuga family knew the identity of Xiaoqiangsan, and immediately reported this matter to Hyuga Hiyoshi. Hyuga Hiyoshi was also taken aback. Hurry up and send all the clansmen out to protect Xiaoqiangsan, and don't let Xiaoqiangsan get into trouble. Otherwise, he can't even imagine what Senju Starry Night will become. Such a big matter naturally came to Senju Tsunade's side. At first, Senju Tsunade didn't believe it. After all, Xiaoqiangsan was staying at home well before. Why is it suddenly full of streets? The next moment, she saw a little Kuang-san appearing in the corridor at the door, and she was stunned immediately. Mother Tsunade, do you know where Sister Nu is? Xiaoqiangsan didn't know that he was causing trouble, and when he was looking for it, he saw an acquaintance and immediately came over to ask. Then, Xiaoqiangsan saw the stunned Mother Tsunade appear in front of her in an instant, and her eyes quickly raised until they were at the same level with Mother Tsunade. Why did you run out? Don't you know it's dangerous outside? Senju Tsunade that called a scare. Although I knew that these children were very naughty at home, I never expected that they could be naughty to this extent. Just ran outside. Little Kuang-san is only 2.5 years old now. Whose 2.5-year-old child can run all over the street? Xiaoqiangsan was taken aback, then turned into a shadow and disappeared with a whoosh. Senju Tsunade thumped, suddenly feeling bad. It's over. This is not little Kuang-san, the past clone of Kuang-san 673. Senju Tsunade immediately understood the seriousness of the matter. Quick, hurry up and tell Senju Kusanai, let him bring Kuang-san home as soon as possible. She immediately ordered to Ambu with a serious face. So, Senju Kusanai, who was practicing with the child at home, immediately ran out without stopping. That's it, Konoha is so big, how can I find this little girl? Senju Kusanai smiled wryly. Logically speaking, as long as he thought about it, he would be able to fully perceive the situation of Sleepy Yi. But the crux of the problem is that he can feel that there are a little too many little Kuang-san now. There are dozens of them. With so many little Kuang-san, he had to find the main body accurately. But until now, Kienzi Kusanai can only confirm the body through the naked eye. The method of trying to use perception is completely unworkable, because those little crazy 3 are not just clones. All of them are Xiaoqiangsan's past, which means they are all Xiaoqiangsan himself. How should this situation be perceived? Chapter 193. Little Crazy 3 wants to play with you. No way. Senju Starry Night can only split Shadow Clone to find it. But he found that the number of little Kuang-san was still increasing. This made it even more difficult to find Xiaoqiangsan. Or, after discovering that someone was looking for her, Xiaoqiangsan directly regarded it as a game of hide and seek and was having a great time playing it. Where is Xiao Kuang-san's body at this time? While avoiding the others, she searches for the whereabouts of Nia and Luffy. Xiao Kuang-san finally remembered the reason why he came out. Suddenly, Xiao Kuang-san's eyes lit up. She saw a familiar person. Sister Hong. Sister Hong. Little Kuang-san ran away. Hearing the familiar voice, Yuhihong turned her head and rushed over in surprise. Little Kuang-san, why are you here? No, why are you outside? While Yuhihong stepped forward to hug Xiao Kuang-san, she turned her head left and right to look for possible guardians like Senju Starry Night or others. But no one saw it. Why did you run out alone? Yuhihong couldn't figure out how Xiao Kuang-san escaped from the Senju station. For a long time, Senju Starry Night has worried that the children are still too young, and they are prone to accidents when going out, and the range of Senju's resident is also large enough. So just let the kids play at home. Anyway, he has many children, so he shouldn't be his playmate. There is no need to worry about the child being alone. That kind of thing can't happen to his Senju Starry Night child. I'm here to play with Sister Nu and Brother Luffy, Xiao Kuang-san said loudly, then turned his head and looked around. She remembered that every time Yuhihong came to Senju's residence, she always came with Nawu and Luffy. Xiao Kuang-san suddenly had a stereotype in his simple brain circuit. Once you find Red Sunset, you will find Nu and Luffy. Are you here to play with your older brothers and sisters? Yuhihong felt that her heart was about to melt. If she had such a cute little sister, she would hold her in her hand every day, play with her, and buy her anything she wanted. In short, just give her everything. However, Ryong is still sensible in the end. By the way, have you told your parents what happened when you came out? Xiao Kuang-san shook his head and said, Kang-san is playing peekaboo with his father. Many fathers come to look for it together, and the hunter must hide well so that he cannot be found by his father. Yuhihong suddenly couldn't laugh or cry, obviously anxiously looking for you with the avatar, but in the end, did you think he was playing with you? At this time, Luffy, who had completed the task of finding the lost cat, walked over. Seeing Kuang-san, Nawu said in surprise. Kuang-san, why are you here? Luffy hugged the cat that kept moving and trying to escape, and his face was almost scratched. Kakashi was holding a small book, reading it intently, and walking slowly. It seems that he has no interest in the outside world. In fact, taking Nu and Luffy to do this kind of D-level mission without difficulty is basically equivalent to a vacation for him. However, his vacation came to an abrupt end with a surprise cheer. Sister Nawu, Kakashi raised his head suddenly. This immature childish voice and this title represent too many things. There are and only other children of Senju Starry Night who can call that Nu an older sister. There is no other possibility. At least for now, that's the only possibility. Since the other children of Senju Kusanai are here, does it mean that Senju Kusanai himself is not far from here? If Senju Kusanai sees him reading this kind of unsuitable book when he takes his children to do tasks, what will happen? Kakashi didn't dare to think about it. He could only immediately put the book into the ninja bag on his waist, then look up. Fortunately, Senju Starry Night was not seen. The crisis is resolved. Feeling relaxed immediately, Kakashi also set his eyes on Kuromi. At a glance, he saw the most special place on the Mad Lord. The right eye is white. But what is the golden eye on the left? I don't know if it was his illusion, but Kakashi seemed to see the hour and minute hands of a clock in Kuromi's right eye. At this time, he thought of Nawu's introduction to her younger siblings when the team was just formed. Little Kuang-san always conjures many, very cute ones. Become many? Clone technique or shadow clone? Kakashi doesn't know why. But this child who is obviously only about 2 years old, can't use shadow clone. Even if this child is Senju Kusanai's daughter, Kakashi can't believe that he can master Wang Qianhao, shadow clone at such a young age. If it is clone technique, he can still accept it. At this time, he noticed that there were shadows flying close to the ground in the distance, merging into Kuang-san's shadow. What are these shadows? Kakashi was a little curious. Nawu naturally knew what was going on. This is the other little crazy three. By the way, little Kuang-san, you haven't told me why you ran out? Did father and mother know? Nawu's expression was a little harsh. As the eldest sister, she naturally had to show enough majesty in front of her younger siblings. But obviously, this set is useless to Xiao Kuang-san. Little Kuang-san said with a grin. I wanted to play with you, so I came out. Chapter 194 Hide and Seek is over. Good girl. At this moment, several people gathered together, including their own eldest daughter and eldest son. Senju Kusanai felt it immediately, and rushed over at an extremely fast speed. What must be the main body? Fortunately nothing happened. Even he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Although, now his Senju is quietly becoming the pillar of the entire ninja world. While changing the ninja world, it is also invisibly changing the importance of the Senju family in the hearts of people in the ninja world. However, if Senju Starry Night has no enemies, it is absolutely impossible. For example, the Uchiha family who have been at odds with the Senju family. Although the Uchiha family is declining now, the foundation is still there after all. That Uchiha Madara who didn't know whether he was dead or not was an invisible deterrent, making Kusanai the culprit who didn't dare to leave Konoha village rashly. Even though he is now fighting the elderly Uchiha Madara, 047 will definitely win for him. But there's no need to take that risk. In addition to Uchiha, there is such a scourge as Danzo inside. Although there are less than 100 root ninjutsu now, and because most of the ninjas have taken refuge in the Senju clan, Danzo is unable to recruit even root members, and it seems that he does not exist. But Senju Kusanai did not forget the famous Nabukage Lord of Konoha. The cat has not shown its head for such a long time. There must be some big trick hidden in the dark. If Danzo's people find Xiaoqiangsun ahead of time and bring him back to the roots, no matter what happens to Xiaoqiangsun, Senju Kusanai will never forgive himself. That's why Senju Kusanai seemed very anxious. As for the outside of the village, apart from Cloud Shinobi village, I am afraid that people in other ninja villages would like him to die. Senju Hashirama was suppressed for a century at the time. At that time, no one dared to mess with Bbook's trouble. As a result, as soon as Senju Hashirama died, the ninja villages began to have conflicts, followed by the First Ninja World War. Although many people died in the war, it also brought many things to these ninja villages. So, they don't want to have another Senju Starry Night to keep suppressing them at all. And this time Senju, there is no Uchiha to compete with. No one wants to be inferior. This is also one of the reasons why Senju Starry Night didn't want to leave Konoha village. Once you leave Konoha village, you may face various assassinations at any time. As for Senju's whereabouts, Danzo will leak out 100%, and even his roots will take the lead in encircling Senju Starry Night, prevent his body from falling into the hands of other ninja villages. Therefore, Senju Kusanai never intends to leave Konoha village until he confirms that he is strong enough. And there is no need to leave. Whatever you want, Sleepy Leaf village has it all. If not, you can ask Boss Zhao to spend money to buy it back. Soon, Senju Kusanai came to where Nawu and the others were. He saw Xiaoqiangsun, who was being scolded by Nawu's serious face at a glance. But Xiaoqiangsun obviously didn't feel conscious of being reprimanded. He looked at his sister with a smile, and stretched out his hands to hug her. Cool. Taking a long breath, Senju Kusanai finally confirmed that what was in front of him was the three main bodies of Xiaoqiang. Now, he doesn't need to worry anymore. Others also noticed his arrival. Father, you are here too, Luffy said carelessly, still holding the dishonest cat in his arms. The scratches on the face have healed extremely fast. Although Luffy doesn't have a sage body yet, the speed of recovery is already unmatched by ordinary people. Well, go ahead and carry out the task. Remember to tell your mother when you go back to report the task, and you have found your crazy third sister. Luffy nodded. Oh, I see. This indifferent attitude obviously did not take this matter to heart. I'm sorry, father. As a big sister, I didn't do my duty well and let Kuang-san behave like this. Gnu seemed to be full of guilt. She felt that she was a failure as a sister. He didn't even have the momentum to teach his sister a lesson, and he even made her make such a big mess. He, Dad finally caught me. Little Kuang-san was grinning, with a mischievous smile on his face. Senju Kusanai sighed again, then hugged Xiaoqiangsun and said, Okay, hide and seek is over. Woo, hurry up and go home. You don't know how worried your mother is. Xiaoqiangsun was obviously a little reluctant. But I want to play with Sister Nawu. Sister Armature hasn't played with Mad King for several days. She pouted dissatisfiedly, and turned to look at Nawu for help. But how could Nawu agree at this time? Okay, how about I ask Nawu to take a leave of absence tomorrow and let her spend the whole day with you? Senju Kusanai was reluctant to speak harshly. After all, Xiaoqiangsun was only 2.5 years old. If she hadn't possessed such a miraculous ability, it would not have been possible to make such a big mess. Now the village is full of little Kuang-san's avatars. Okay then. It's settled. Xiaoqiangsun reluctantly agrees, and stretches out his fingers to make an agreement with Senju Kusanai first, and then with Nawu. Now she is willing to go home with Senju Kusanai. Chapter 195 Danzo, listen to my advice, you can't handle Konoha now. The fuss caused by little Kuang-san is over, but Xiaoqiangsun's ability has also caught the attention of many people. It's really unbelievable that a child who is only 2 years old can master the shadow clone technique that even Chunin may not have mastered. But after they learned that Xiaoqiangsun was the daughter of Senju Kusanai, this unbelievable feeling seemed to become normal. After all, Gnu and Luffy broke the record of the fastest and youngest ninja school graduation created by the genius Kakashi at an incredible age. It is not unacceptable to have an extra 2-year-old daughter who can shadow clone. Who told that it was Senju Starry Night? Now the news related to Senju Starry Night, even if it is outrageous, people are gradually accepting it. Because Senju Kusanai has shown his strong strength in several shots, it became easy to accept that his child was also a genius. However, it also made people curious about the other children of Senju Starry Night. As we all know, Senju Kusanai had many children because he had many wives and concubines. However, even Konoha's people haven't seen much of Senju Starry Night's children, because very few people can enter the Senju residence. This makes the children of Senju Starry Night very mysterious. Gnu and Luffy, who appeared in the public eye, both showed their genius side. Following Kakashi to perform missions for a while, Although it is the lowest level of D-level missions, judging from various solid basic strengths, it is enough to see that Nu and Luffy graduated from ninja school, not because of Senju Starry Night or Senjutsu used authority. Nu and Luffy really have this strength to be able to graduate from ninja school. And now, the unexpectedly appearing Xiaoqiang also showed an unusual side, which made people believe that all the children of Senju Kusanai are geniuses among geniuses. Curious eyes began to sign and explore near the station, but no one dared to go beyond the line of sight. After all, this is the base camp of Senju Starry Night. Who dares to be presumptuous here? The territory of the Sarutobi clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen is like a retired veteran Kada, sitting on a deck chair in his courtyard, basking in the sun leisurely. Ever since he let himself go and dance that enchanting dance on stage, he started to have a bad attitude. And after performing for several nobles, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who made a lot of money, tasted the sweetness even more. But he doesn't go there himself now. Even if someone invited him, he just sent a shadow clone to deal with it. I myself enjoy the last life in the family land. But today, someone wanted to disturb his tranquility. Hiruzen, how long do you not want to degenerate? Danzo yelled angrily. Sarutobi Hiruzen just glanced back calmly and said, "Oh, it's group love. Why? Haven't you given up on your idea?" Danzo snorted coldly, and was interrupted just as he was about to speak. Senju Mechun takeaway. May I ask whose takeaway is it? A takeaway worker wearing Senju Mechun overalls suddenly appeared, took a takeaway box in his hand, looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen, and then looked at Danzo. "What's mine is mine." Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately sat up and took the ramen he ordered from the delivery man. "Oh, it's good that you guys are getting faster and faster," the takeaway said with a smile. "That's our job. Please give me a good review later, dear. Ask for flowers." After finishing speaking, it disappeared with a whoosh, obviously going to the next order. Sarutobi Hiruzen opened the takeaway box with a smile, and looked at the delicious Yakiraku luxury ramen inside, his eyes full of anticipation. "I've wanted to taste it for a long time, but I don't know what it will taste like." "Hiruzen, do you remember when you were Hokage? Look at you now. Can you still hold a shuriken? Huh? You're still here, Danzo." "I'm sorry, I only have this takeaway. Would you like to order one yourself?" "It's okay, I invite you." Sarutobi Hiruzen looked up, looking at Danzo with a surprised face. Danzo was so angry that he turned purple. "You've lost our teacher's face. Have you forgotten what the teacher taught us?" Danzo cursed angrily, but Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed. "If the teacher knows what you have done these years, do you think he will be happy or unhappy? We are all old guys, and the current village should be handed over to their young people. We old guys don't have to worry about so many things." Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a gentle face, as if he couldn't see Danzo's angry face. Of course he knew why Danzo came. All he wanted was to ask for his help. But Sarutobi Hiruzen really does not intend to participate in these things. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell at a glance that Ren Minutes Kusanai's position in Konoha and even the Kingdom of Fire is unshakable. Only Danzo thought he had hope of a comeback. When they came to the door this time, they must have thought of some way, and wanted to unite themselves or the power of the Sarutobi clan to make a wave. How could Sarutobi Hiruzen allow his own people to be cannon fodder? Chapter 196 I Misread You. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you are so self-deprecating. I misread you. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Danzo turned and left angrily. Behind him, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked on with a smile, showing no intention of obstructing him. Joke. Stop for what? Really hooked up with Danzo? Now Sarutobi Hiruzen understands. The Senju clan is stronger now than it was when Konoha village was founded. All because of a series of decisions made by Senju Kusanai. The Senju clan has gradually become an indispensable existence in the entire ninja world. If you want to destroy the current Senju family, you must eradicate Senju Starry Night. But can it be done? 750 can't do it. Not to mention that most of the ninjas in Konoha are on the side of Senju Starry Night. Even if they are all on the sidelines, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo teamed up, it is impossible to be Senju Star Yoruichi's personal opponent. So, Sarutobi Hiruzen has no idea at all. Just want to enjoy life. This is something that he suffered from when he was Hokage before. After a bit of trouble, can't he still enjoy it? As for Danzo wanting to make trouble, let him make trouble. Anyway, it's impossible to make a fuss. Left the clan land of the Sarutobi clan. Danzo's face remained gloomy. He never expected that his best friend who supported him the most would turn out to be so depraved. Completely forgetting the teachings of their teacher Senju Tobirama before his death. Damn Hiruzen, it's such a disgrace that he doesn't have the backbone he used to have. No way, it seems that I am the only one here. Whoosh, two rooted ninjas appeared beside him. Go, keep an eye on the situation of the Senju resident, and once a child from Senju Starry Night appears, bring it to me immediately. Yes. The two responded and disappeared in an instant. Danzo, with a gloomy face, turned towards the root doctor. Originally he was also expecting to lure a few brats out of the Senju resident through Sarutobi Hiruzen's good old man character. Now we can only take backup measures and wait for a rabbit. After the incident of Xiaoqiang came out, Danzo found a breakthrough. No matter how strong your Senju Starry Night is, how strong can your child be? When your child falls into my hands, won't you be at my mercy? Thinking of this, Danzo revealed the villain's classic Yinhu. Hokage building. Okimaru's laboratory. Okimaru was resting when Senju Kusanai rushed over. What are you doing here this time? As soon as Okimaru saw Senju Starry Night, he didn't look good. Every time Senju Starry Night comes over, nothing good happens. Either to speed up the progress, or to increase research projects. This is far from what Okimaru really wants to study, and it seriously hinders his research progress. Senju Kusanai looked at it first, and then asked casually after finding out that the bag was not there. Why are you alone? Where are you? Perform your favorite experiments in other labs. Really? That's really hard for him. Senju Kusanai smiled, then approached Okimaru and asked softly, how's it going? Did the research have a clue? Okimaru frowned and said, what you mean? Senju Kusanai elbowed Okimaru and said winkingly, what else can it be? Of course it's something in the sealed book. What does that have to do with you? Okimaru frowned even more. The heart also raised subconsciously. For research on forbidden technique, he has made some progress, but Okimaru didn't know why Senju Kusanai suddenly asked such a thing at this time. Although looking at Senju Kusanai's expression, it seems that there is no need to worry. However, no matter how careless you are in this kind of thing, there is no problem. Looking at you like this, it is obvious that there is progress, Senju Kusanai said with a smile. Which one is making progress? Impure world reincarnation, or something else? Impure world reincarnation. Are you still thinking about this technique? Okimaru was taken aback for a moment, then said suddenly, he still remembers the light in his eyes when Senju Kusanai told him about reanimation jutsu. However, the content made Okimaru slightly uncomfortable. Okimaru considers himself a very cruel person, but when facing Senju Starry Night, he felt that he couldn't compare to him. The ability to squeeze from all aspects of spirit and body is really chilling. Are you still thinking about taking advantage of the dead? Okimaru looked at Senju Starry Night with strange eyes. Senju Starry Night doesn't care. Blame it on Second Hokage. Whoever made him create this inhuman thing. I'm just a junior, learning from the rich experience of my predecessors. And compared to Second Hokage, I am at least more humane. Unlike Second Hokage, which was created entirely to match another forbidden technique. Okimaru suddenly became interested. He licked his tongue and couldn't help asking, forbidden technique? What forbidden technique? Senju Kusanai asked in surprise. Didn't you see it? It should all be in the sealed book. Chapter 197. So you knows this forbidden technique is inhuman. In the sealed book? What's the name? Okimaru frowned. There are too many forbidden techniques in the Book of Seals. I don't know how Second Hokage created so many forbidden techniques. There were so many that even Okimaru didn't look over. He just picks out what he finds interesting for research. For those who are not interested in forbidden technique, I just glanced at it and didn't pay much attention to it. Why? Do you want to study it? Senju Kusanai glanced at him, then said, it's okay to tell you. After all, it's not the bed you'd be interested in. The name of the technique is tandem paper bombs. It is a forbidden technique that is extremely lethal, but at the same time threatens the user's life. Okimaru suddenly realized. He remembers this technique. When I saw it at the time, I was still wondering why 15 created this kind of technique that kills 1,000 enemies and damages 1,000. Was it originally intended to be used with the impure world reincarnation body? Indeed, I figured it out as soon as it exploded. The body of impure world reincarnation will not die, and it can be used as a self-explosive soldier to rush up and die with the enemy. The point is that enemies die, but impure world reincarnation bodies don't. What a genius idea. Okimaru couldn't help sighing. He became slightly interested, but not big. What he cares more about is the continuation of life. After participating in many wars, I have a better understanding of the fragility of life. Okimaru just wanted to find a way to keep his life going. In this way, we can continue to study ninjutsu. After all, Okimaru is no longer a ninja, but a pure researcher. In this way, on the battlefield, you don't need to consume the ninjas on your side. You only need one dead person to reverse the outcome of the January battlefield. Okimaru had to admire Senju Tobirama's idea, but he also had to acknowledge Senju Tobirama's creativity. However, it is obvious that as a junior of the Senju clan, Kienzi Kusanai does not want to follow the ideas of his predecessors at all. Even Okimaru has no qualms about learning tandem paper bombs. Okimaru feels this behavior is a wasteful one. If we wake up those famous powerhouses in the past, such as the cage-level characters in various villages, the power they can display is much stronger than the 10 simple self-destruct ninjutsu. At least on the tactical level, it will be more abundant. So, how is the research progress of impure world reincarnation? Is it ready to use? Senju stared at Okimaru expectantly. Okimaru shook his head and said, not yet. The forbidden technique research is not that simple. Senju Starry Night was a bit disappointed, but also understandable. Since this is the case, remember to call me when you have achieved results. Senju Kusanai said hello, turned around and left. Behind, Okimaru said with a cold snort. So, Are you still thinking about asking the deceased to send you a courier or takeaway? Senju Kusanai turned his head and showed a bright smile. Of course it's more than that. I'm also going to have the water-style ninjas irrigate the rice fields, and the earth-style ninjas renovate the land, fix roads, things like that. And most importantly, aren't you curious about the knowledge held in the minds of these impure world reincarnation bodies? When Senju Kusanai said this, Orochimaru's eyes lit up. For Orochimaru, knowledge is the most important thing. It is also the driving force for his research. The more you know, the more you realize how small you are. Orochimaru was deeply intoxicated in the ocean of knowledge, and therefore deeply feared the shortness of his life. That's why I want to study forbidden technique to extend my life. At present, he already has a certain idea, but it will take a long time to complete it. But Orochimaru quickly spotted a problem. No, the summoned impure world reincarnation body won't work with you, and you won't be able to use that knowledge. Coercive control can only control their behavior, not get them to answer your questions. If this problem is not solved, Senju Starry Knight's proposal is completely meaningless. Senju Star 293 rolled his eyes, said, "Why did you think of such a cruel way first? Can't it be done in a gentler way?" Orochimaru looked at Senju Starry Knight with asking eyes. For example, fulfilling other people's last wishes and so on. Senju Kusanai said, "After all, not everyone has no regrets before death. If they can make up for the regrets in life, I'm afraid they will be willing to say it." Orochimaru frowned, always feeling that this matter was unreliable. "But I have to say, this is the only feasible way." Afterwards, Orochimaru couldn't help but sigh. "I didn't expect that you would have such a humane idea. What is inhumane is that this technique has nothing to do with me." Senju Kusanai rolled his eyes. "I'm looking for Lord's second Hokage, who made him create such an inhuman forbidden technique. So you also know that the forbidden technique is inhumane? Then you have so many more inhuman thoughts?" Orochimaru couldn't help but groan in his heart. Chapter 198. We need to talk. We need to talk. Facing Senju Tsunade's serious expression, Senju Kusanai was at a loss. Talk? Talk about what? Senju Kusanai asked tremblingly. "I'm afraid that Senju Tsunade will say something suddenly. I think a lot. I don't think we are suitable." Fortunately, everything is just his cranky imagination. Senju Tsunade looked at Kurumi, who was practicing with other children in the courtyard, frowning slightly. "The incident with little Kuang-san reminded us that we must prepare some backup measures. It turned out to be this matter." Senju Kusanai breathed a sigh of relief, then said with a smile, "I'm making preparations for this matter, and I believe it will be done in 2 days." "Huh? What are you going to do?" Now Senju Tsunade is a little curious. Senju Kusanai reached out and hooked out the pendant on the neck of the signing. Just said, "Remember this thing Grandpa Hashirama left behind?" Senju Tsunade looked down at the green crystal lying quietly in the gap in his chest, nodded and said, "This is a relic left by Grandpa. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong?" "This thing actually has another function, which is to curb the rampage of Nine-Tails Jinchuriki," Senju Kusanai said with a smile. "So, I'm going to follow the example of Grandpa Hashirama and make something that can defend oneself and give each of the little ones one. That's how it is, so that even if they are in danger, they can survive until we rush over, right?" Senju Tsunade said suddenly. "Your idea is good. How long will it take to make it? Vertical bar. I've been preparing since the Little Crazy 3 incident. It will be ready in about 2 days." Senju Kusanai said with a smile. Seeing that her husband was getting ready, Senju Tsunade relaxed. Afterwards, she looked at the group of children who were earnestly studying chakra in admiration, and said, "Should I say that they are indeed your children? All of them have such good qualifications." Of course, Senju Starry Night is like a proud rooster, with its head held high, although relying on the help of the system. But isn't the system his? So this wave is entirely his credit. Although the aptitude of these children is not as good as that of Nu, Luffy and Leah, but in any case, it also has cage-level qualifications. Under the conscious training at a young age, it is still very fast to condense a chakra, especially Uzokian, who is very talented. He is only 2 years old, and he has already surpassed his older brothers and sisters, catching up with Nia and Luffy. Go on like this. When Yuzao turns 3 years old next year, she can be arranged to join Nu and Luffy's team. Coincidentally, if there is no accident next year, Ryong and her little sisters will also join this big family. The addition of Yuzao can fill the space of the team, and with the protection of Senju Kusanai, these children can also safely complete the mission in the Land of Fire. Certainly, it is still too early to go abroad to perform tasks. After all, the 3 children are still young, and the Land of Fire is the place of Senju Starry Night. Everything is under his control. Nothing can happen. 2 days later, Senju Kusanai took out a large number of manufactured jewelry. There are rings, necklaces, bracelets, anklets, leg rings and more. The styles vary, but the most unified feature among them is that there are green crystals on these jewelry. It is crystal clear in sunlight and looks absolutely beautiful. As soon as Senju Starry Night was taken out, it was quickly divided up. Even me? Senju Tsunade was a little surprised. After all, she is not weak, she is also 4th Hokage. But being able to get a gift from Senju Kusanai, her heart is still sweet. After all, she is a woman, and it is impossible for her to be unhappy when she receives a gift from her beloved. Let me help you carry it, Senju Kusanai said softly, held Senju Tsunade's middle finger, and put on this green crystal ring for her. Matching with the ring on the ring finger next to it is even more interesting. Senju Tsunade's face turned redder. She involuntarily covered her hot cheeks, feeling her heart was filled with something sweet. She couldn't help giving him a coquettish look. This scene was seen by other people. They looked at each other one after another, and then rushed forward. Husband, I also want you to bring it for me. Hurry up, husband, help me bring it. I want me too. Hurry up. Although not everyone has a ring, as long as Senju, Lihao, Kusanai personally wears it, they still feel infinite happiness filling their hearts. Senju Kusanai happily brought them along. It took him a while to bring all the wives. As for the children, leave it to the children themselves. Most of the children's are in the form of necklaces, which are easy to carry. Hanging around the neck is not easy to lose. The rope is also specially made, unless it is cut hard with a weapon made of chakra-conductive metal. It is possible to cut it. What mechanism did you set up in these jewelry? Senju Tsunade stretched out his hand to admire his newly acquired ring, and asked curiously at the same time. You guess? Senju Kusanai smiled mysteriously. Chapter 199 I am Sayaka, I want revenge. After a few days, Senju Kusanai looked at the masked woman in front of him in surprise. Then he looked at Boss Zhao with a flattering smile on his side. Tell me, who is this? He really didn't expect it. Boss Zhao unexpectedly gave him such a big surprise on such an ordinary day. Who is this? I am the princess of the Kingdom of Wind, and my name is Sayaka. Sayaka interrupted the boss's introduction, and looked at Senju Starry Night with burning eyes. He is even more handsome in real life than in the photos. Those eyes are as deep as the sea of stars. Such a tall and straight nose bridge. Those plump and juicy lips. Those pretty, flawless cheeks. It's just perfect. Sayaka screamed crazily in her heart. Another poor girl obsessed with my appearance. Senju Kusanai felt deeply guilty. With such a peerless and independent handsome face, he has captured the hearts of all women 450. This is the case with the former princess of the land of earth. The same is true for the princess of the wind country. Well, how sinful I am. Senju Kusanai couldn't help sighing. But he still asked curiously on the surface. I don't know why Her Royal Highness found me. Sayaka is a little stuck. After all, she was not as bold as Asaka. Dare to face Senju Kusanai directly and say that he wants to marry you. She is still a little shy. Or Boss Zhao stepped forward and said. Actually, that's how it happened. The daimyo of the Land of Winds wishes to marry you, boss. Having said that, Senju Kusanai immediately understood. It turned out to be a transaction. But my charm is still unstoppable. Even if it was a transaction, didn't the woman in front of me fall in love with me involuntarily? If we get married, what do I need to pay? Senju Kusanai frowned slightly. Presumably Her Royal Highness's father will definitely not marry Her Royal Highness to this lord for no reason. Boss Zhao felt that Her Royal Highness still couldn't tell the reason, so he continued. The daimyo-sama of the Land of Winds wishes to reduce the exemption. I want revenge. Sayaka interrupted the corner boss again, and her words made Boss Zhao look at Sayaka in surprise. Senju Starry Night was also a little surprised. Just looking at him was still full of enthusiasm. But now, it immediately turned into endless hatred. What happened? Senju Kusanai frowned slightly and looked at Boss Zhao. He heard that the trading chip of the daimyo of the Kingdom of the Wind is to reduce something. This is completely different from what Sayaka said. I want. Sayaka was about to speak, but was stopped by Senju Kusanai raising his hand. He was asking Bosscock, not her. This is the negligence of the corner boss. Boss Zhao quickly lowered his head and said, it's the subordinate's dereliction of duty that he didn't notice Her Royal Highness's hatred. But this subordinate knows the reason why Her Royal Highness is like this. As he said that, he quickly explained the circumstances of the many assassinations of the daimyo by the Psi clan of the Country of the Wind. Senju Starry Night had heard about these things, but didn't pay much attention to them. Regardless of whether people in the Kingdom of Wind killed him, someone had to repay the debt. No matter who takes the position of daimyo, this will not change at all. After hearing the cause and effect, and knowing that Sayaka wanted to avenge his tragic death of his younger brother and sister, Senju Kusanai couldn't help but look at Sayaka. Surprised? No, if this matter falls on Senju Kusanai, he will definitely make the same choice as Sayaka, because this is Sayaka's only option for revenge. Sacrifice yourself in exchange for powerful assistance. However, if it was Senju Starry Night, it would not be so reckless. However, there are not many choices left for Sayaka, or Sayaka has no choice at all. Either choose to come here, or be assassinated by an assassin sent by the nobles at some point. There is no third option. I see your will. But do you think your father will agree with your idea? Senju Kusanai asked seriously. This is my own idea, and I don't need the consent of my father. Sayaka's eyes were firm. Every night, she would dream of the tragic death of her younger brothers and sisters, and their voices surrounded her ears. Said some intrusive words. Sayaka has had enough. She had to make a break. Either she dies, or the nobles die. There is no other choice. Senju Kusanai was silent for a while, then turned his head and said to the boss, "Send Princess Sayaka to the guest room to rest." Then he said to Sayaka, whose expression became anxious, "I need to think about this matter. After all, this is a matter of the Kingdom of Wind, and it is not good for me to directly intervene." Sayaka's eyes dimmed. She didn't expect that the omnipotent Senju Kusanai in her fantasy would not agree to her request. But Senju Kusanai didn't say anything to death. There was no glimmer of hope for the group. Sayaka could only wait patiently. "Come with me, Your Royal Highness." Boss Zhao stretched out his hand to invite, and then led the way. "Wait until Sayaka leaves." A graceful and luxurious woman walked in. "I thought you would agree directly," Yuan Shizi said teasingly. Chapter 200. On the eve of the shower, Senju Kusanai looked back at Yuan Shizi, and smiled mysteriously. "Actually, Saya is really good, but I have more important things to do. With Orochimaru's talent, he will soon be able to research how to use impure world reincarnation. When the time comes to perform this forbidden technique, many living people will be needed as sacrifices. The best solution is naturally to use the 100,000 white Zetsu. I believe that with Danzo's character, there should be a move soon. And if Obito wants to break through Konoha's defense, he will definitely need the help of Danzo. After all, it is the enemy who is in the dark, and the best way for Senju Kusanai to remove obstacles is to lure the snake out of the hole. The arrival of Sayaka happened to be an opportunity. Anbu, fallen, too depraved. Danzo was shaking with anger. When he came back from Sarutobi Hiruzen, Danzo was very angry. Although several days had passed, every time he thought of Sarutobi Hiruzen's self-deprecating appearance, Danzo always felt itchy. As for Senju Starry Night, he always thought that Senju Starry Night would bring disaster to Konoha, and thought that Sarutobi Hiruzen would help him eradicate this disaster together. However, the current Sarutobi Hiruzen has lost the faith he once had. It seems that Konoha can only be guarded by him. However, Senju Kusanai's strength is indeed not something he can compete with alone. Just when he was in trouble, Danzo's eyes went dark, and his consciousness was pulled into a different time and space. A figure appeared in the darkness. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." "Danzo, I think it is necessary for you to cooperate with me." A familiar voice sounded, and Danzo was instantly alert. Madara. Danzo still can't figure out why Uchiha Madara can freely enter and leave the range of Konoha, and pull himself into the different space so easily. Thinking of this, Danzo couldn't help feeling scared for a while. Of course, Danzo didn't know that the Madara in front of him was Obito in disguise. And the different space ninjutsu that makes him extremely afraid is nothing but the ability of Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Obito evoked a smug smile. "I didn't expect that at my age, I can still have such a strong deterrent. Should I be glad that my sword is not old, or should I laugh at you for being too cautious? Should we talk about cooperation now?" Danzo looked disdainful and snorted coldly. "Don't think that I don't know about your conspiracy. The real threat to Konoha is you. What reason do you think I have to cooperate with you?" Uchiha Obito smiled. "Just rely on Senju Starry Night. As I said, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. I need you to help me eradicate Senju Starry Night. At the same time, if you want to eradicate Senju Starry Night, you also need my help. Isn't that reason enough?" Seeing that Danzo was still contemplating, Uchiha Obito saw the wavering in his heart, so he pursued the victory. "I know your concerns. You are afraid that I will attack Konoha. Actually, you don't have to worry at all. I have no interest in destroying Konoha at all. Otherwise, with my current strength, I can destroy Konoha dozens of times. And if I really want to do something to you, you are probably a cold corpse now." Aren't these sincerities enough to convince you? Although Danzo knows the danger of Uchiha Madara, he seems to have no other way to deal with Senju Starry Night. And in his eyes, what Uchiha Madara just said makes sense. Task for flowers. Just based on the number of people in the different space just now, if the target is himself, it is really possible to be decapitated in an instant. As for the threat to Konoha, Uchiha Madara is enough to rival Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjutsu, and there is no doubt about his strength. Although he didn't know why Uchiha Madara came to him to cooperate, he still agreed. At worst, after gaining the trust of Uchiha Madara, he will turn his back on the water and attack. It must not be so difficult. "Tell me, how do we cooperate?" Cosmic Wave Obito smiled. "Actually, you should also have this idea, and that is to target Senju Starry Night's weakness." Danzo's brows were tightly wrinkled, shocked in his heart. "Your confidant Shigara Tanuki has been following the children of Senju Starry Night for the past few days, so you must have the same thoughts as me. Then why don't we implement the plan in our hearts?" Hearing Uchiha Obito's words, cold sweat flowed down Danzo's forehead. "As expected of Uchiha Madara, you even know my movements, so you have people by my side?" Uchiha Obito smiled disdainfully. "Did you forget my space ninjutsu?" It shouldn't be difficult to know this information. Although Danzo no longer believed the other party's nonsense, it must be pointless to ask further questions. So they began to discuss specific plans. "You should have seen Senju Kusanai's strength, and it may not be that simple to want to hit his child. Do you have any good ideas?" Uchiha Obito smiled slightly. "It was really not easy before, But now there is a ready opportunity. Based on your intelligence network, you should know the identity of the little girl who arrived recently, right? If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, link in the description. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.